Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Friday's night debate. What we do on Friday's night is to debate some of the issues or have conversations concerning some of the issues that come out of Liberia and within the Liberian diaspora, as well as within Africa, or things that concern Liberia. Today, excuse me. Today we have amongst us um, Mr. J. Victor Nangwe from the CMC. Can you please introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry. Were you talking to me, Ross?
Yes, sir. Can you please introduce
Oh,
yourself, people?
thank you very much. J. Victor Number here. It's good to be here tonight. FL Friday night debate, and thanks to our audience for joining us. Um, let's get the show on the road. Good evening, Dr. Malice. Good to be with you as well.
Good evening, sir.
Great. And we have Dr. Jones O'Malley. Male, can you please, Senior, can you please introduce yourself to the people, please?
Oh well, Dr. Jones Malay, and from one of our sister media platform, the LPR TV, and always a special guest on the Friday debate. And I want to extend my greeting to the most powerful senior brother, Comrade J. Victor Nangme, and our host. And it's like I'm seeing some changing dynamics from the architects or focus on Africa. It seems to be they are becoming more youth driven. And that's something strange. I think I will have to take the message back to my administrators. And that's good. I want to say bravo to Victor and the other crew. At least the other folks try to take the back seat now, and because
Nah, I had nothing to do with it, Dr. Malley.
we can't be talking about the young people or they being left behind, you know. And when their time comes, we leave them with broken country. I think we need to go from that now. So now the platform is young and up moving, and they coming at its time, at the pivotal time. I think that's a congratulation to those of y'all beyond this brain, especially Mr. Dennis. Oh yeah, I'm gonna congratulate him. I'm telling you.
Yeah, thanks to Mr. Dennis. You know, I'm your humble host tonight, Anthony Russell Jr. Um, and like we are all Liberians today, and one of the conversation or the important conversation that we want to talk about is the the visit of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf at the House of Legislature. She made some remarks and sparked some, online debates. And some of the things that she talked about citizenship and race. You know, when we talk about Article 27B, we will get into details about what Article 27B is and what does it mean to be a Liberian citizen. Um, and she also mentioned issues concerning the recent outbreak with land governance and eminent domain as well too. What does it mean for the Liberian people who houses are being broken down? Are they given enough time? Are they given the appropriate methods to be removed? Um, are these demolition justified? We will hear from the panelists what they have to say about these things. And she also talked about the state of Monrovia. Um, you know, talks about the poor condition of Monrovia and stating that things can be changed, and as well as Liberianization and economic control. What does Liberianization means? The first time I actually heard about Liberianization was with Talbot, right? We want to talk about what that means, and the economic control as well too. What it means for Liberians to actually control the economic power in their country. Um, We will also be talking about political party laws and national stability, as well as women's leadership and representation in the Liberian government and amongst other institutions in Liberia as well. So, gentlemen, um, as we wait for other panelists to arrive, we are here to discuss President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, her comments that she left at the legislature. Um, so let's first talk about the citizenship and race comment that she talked about, the conversation pertaining to that. First, let's talk about what Article 27B is. Mr. J. Victor Nabwe, do you want to dive deeper into what Article 27B is and what does that mean to the Liberian people?
Yeah, I think uh, basically 27B reserves Liberian citizenship to Liberians and people of Negro descent. Basically, non non-black people cannot be Liberians by that article. Uh, that's the argument of that article. Um, I think the in if we consider that in context, it did make a lot of sense in the past. Um, there were reasons to protect uh, Liberian citizenship so that uh, guardrails were put in place and we didn't have a runaway citizenship by people from elsewhere coming in, deploying cash violence, so to speak, and basically buying the land from under, the foundational Liberians, as the black people will call themselves here. But I argue that, look, this is the age of globalization. I mean, you can be anywhere, conduct business. That is true. Um, e- right now, with what we are faced with in Liberia, I think it's quite clear. For over 200 years, we've tried to do this on our own. We've gotten nowhere with it. I don't believe um, this particular uh, part of the Constitution, especially in the day and age when barriers have been broken. I agree with the former president. I think it's racist in its nature. We can't be arguing to be citizens of the United States here or other parts of the world, and then argue that people from here who are white cannot be citizens of Liberia. What sense does that make? I think that's double speaking. I mean, that in itself, to me, I think defeats the whole argument. Two, I think we're not considering the economic benefits this is going to bring to Liberia. Um, we tried Liberianization, 26 businesses. Where are we with that? You know, nowhere. This is on the books for no reason because as it is right now, it's already been undermined. I can tell you, foreigners own Liberia, and not just foreigners, but basically people from the Far East. You know,
What do you mean? What do you mean by foreigners own Liberia?
right now the Lebanese and the Indians practically own Liberia.
In,
They
in what
own
sense? In
they
what
own
sense? Can you provide some context to that?
they own the most money in Liberia. They do the most business in Liberia. What else can I say? They every business of consequence in Liberia is owned either by a Lebanese or an Indian. I mean, I want Elvis here to tell me I'm lying, or Jones here to tell me I'm lying. And then you present me with the fact, and I will show you a Haddad or whoever. Show me a real wealthy business Liberian who is on par doing business with in Liberia. I'm not talking about Liberian overseas who have been able to erect a business in Liberia that is on par, with the Abidjaudis, the Fahads, there's none. Why? Because we're not empowering ourselves. And so I think This is on the books for no reason, and it makes us look bad. I think the people are already doing what it is supposed to be stopping them from doing. So, in by it being on the books, I really believe is inconsequential. I mean, I will have a lot more to say to that, but I will leave it to my colleagues here to react to what I just said.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for that. Your points. I can see that Elvis just joined in. He is already having some disagreements with his facial expressions. So I'll give him the floor and then go to Dr. Jones. Elvis?
All right. Thank you, Russell. And hello to you, Mr. Nambo and Dr. Jones.
Hello,
I
sir.
have to respectfully disagree with you, Mr. Nambo. And for background, let me say I think your political leader has expressed, that he wants foreigners, of non-Negro descent to become citizen of Liberia. So I don't know where that's coming from, but we can speculate. But let me just say this. The intent of the original crafter of our Constitution, that has to always be front and center. What was their intent? These were people who came from ancestors who were enslaved in the United States. They were discriminated against purely based on their race. They were oppressed in this country purely based on their race and their ancestry within the United States of America. They sought refuge. They sought a land that would give them freedom and the ability to govern themselves and to forge their own destiny without the intervention of those who oppress them. So when they went to a land in Africa, Black Africa, on the African continent, they wanted a nation that would exclude those who had historically oppressed them. And anybody in their sensible mind would think that's a good idea. Would you now go into your own space and then invite the oppressors who oppress you for hundreds of years to come and be amongst you? Of course not. So the intent is clear and the intent makes sense. Now, when you say that Lebanese control Liberia, first of all, they don't control real property. What is real property? Land. That's real property. Businesses and all these other things, they have to rent those stores. They don't own the land that the stores are sitting on. They may have a lot of more money and more resources than the average Liberian. That is a fact. I'm not denying that. There's two things with the Lebanese. A lot of them are running in a cartel-like circle or cabal-like circle where they borrow each other money. They circulate the money within their communities. Some of them get loans from their home countries. And sometimes, like we saw during the early 2000s, they are involved in illicit, dealings. Some of them are associated with Hezbollah. They're gun trafficking. They're doing all kinds of illicit things and then bring that money to pretty much money launder in Liberia by starting businesses with those illicit gains. So when you say they control our country, not really. They control our politicians because they have the most, disposable wealth to share around and buy with politicians. But real property is where it matters. And the fact that they don't have citizenship, our nation can deport them, can expel them if they feel like they're a threat or they're committing economic sabotage to us without any recourse because they're not citizens. They don't have the privilege and the rights of a citizen of a nation. So they're not on the same standing as the quote-unquote native-born Liberian who may not have the same resources as they do. So when people make this argument, that's why I say, look, why do you think these people are fighting for the right to become citizens of our country? Because they realize that they are restricted. There are certain things in our book that restrict them from doing certain things and from having certain rights. And the history of our country is unique. We may not be the most economically prosperous nation on the continent, but we have a very unique history on the continent. And those people who founded our country put that in the Constitution for a reason. And I, who have lived in this country for almost my entire life, I recognize and I realize why they put that there, and I agree with the sentiment. So to say that we should let Lebanese come and become citizens, or white people, or some people who have historically enslaved Black people come into our lands and start buying up real property, buying up lands that many Liberians can't afford, spiking up the property, price of the land in our country. Many of us here now will probably not be able to afford, lands again. Lands will probably be in the tens of thousands for a plot of land. Is that something that we want because we want foreign people to become a citizen of our nation? Of course not. So I wholeheartedly agree with the provision, and I think it should remain there. And people like our former president to be advocating for it, people like Musa Ability to be advocating for it to be changed, I think they might have, ulterior motive and maybe even some sinister motive behind why they're trying to change that provision. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jones, just before you start, can I ask a question to you? Does former President Sirleaf call to amend Article 27B reflect a genuine national need, or is it an attempt to correct a legacy she failed to address during her 12 years in office?
Well, first of all, I want to extend my greeting to Comrade Evie. It's been a long time now.
Hello to you, Dr. Ma.
Yeah. To address your question, first, let's try to unpack a few things here. Let's try to put the speech itself in the context. I think the speech itself, I would like to use the word, which is an adjective. I think it was blasphemous. It was impiously irrelevant. Because if Madame Sirleaf, her track record speak for her, if everything she listed, the 6 points she listed in her deliverables, my question now is, she ran Liberia for 12 years. She never thought of any of these item agenda to have it inclusive into even her SONA, or to even leave behind a blueprint for other government, since government is continuity to try to look into some of her recommendation as a departing president after 12 years. So I strongly believe that the speech is blasphemous. It does not represent contemporary Liberia today. And probably I see her engaging and maybe try to make use of her last days, talking to people. Let's go to the issue of the Article 27. I don't know when Her Excellency first came to realize that this article was very dangerous. It was racist. I don't know at what point. All the days of her struggle, when she was even under President William Arotabo as finance minister, up to the time she decided to attack Samuel Kanye Doe and even helped to decapitate his government. And she being one of those frontliners when it comes to politics. She had never one day by chance or by accident talk about Article 26, 27B. So I've been pondering, why now? As Ever said, the content then was relevant. Is it relevant now? In contemporary Liberia, the answer is no. And no for two reasons. First, the ex-slaves did not take over a virgin land. The land was occupied by indigenous. So if you come into fashion a document in your direction for your own symbol, I found a problem with that. Because even when the 1986 Constitution came up, under one of the most greatest men of our time, His Excellency the late Amos Sawyer. I mean, I was disappointed. I don't know what they did in that document. The document still need to go back to the surgical room. That entire Constitution need to go back to the surgical room for more surgery. I can tell you that. All right. So what, though probably because of some little education, I don't know why, but Dr. Sawyer did not do well with that document at all. This particular article we're talking about, that should have been one of the articles to even work on then. All right? Why it was left in that document, it puzzles me today. Yes. But in a nutshell, when I look at contemporary Liberia right now, there are certain things in our constitution they're just not applicable right now. Like Evan was saying, I agree with you 100%. On the book, so we know not supposed to own a lot of stuff in our country. I like go to the property stuff. All right. But practically, they are owning property, Comrade Evans. That's a fact. They are owning property. I know about three because there's a portion of our constitution when you may be married to one of our sisters and born child by this sister, automatically at some point in time, the child will have to declare where they're supposed to be, whether Liberian or so. It's not even working. So automatically, when it got engaged our sisters and born by them, automatically they call themselves Liberian in that country. That is a fact in conjunction with our economic power. You see? So I think in a nutshell, our society is still weak. We have some good things in Liberia in our laws, but our ability to have them enforced, we have compromised a lot of things, and the compromises continue to move on. The leniency, political leniency, is damaging Liberia gradually. It's something that we need to visit? Yes. It's something that Her Excellency, the Iron Lady, would have visited? Yes. Why she did not visit it is another question, probably for another day. So even the issue of the land reform, state of Morovia, Liberia, liberalization policy, political organization, and women leadership, these are all laughable things. This time our deliverables should be in conjunction with the expectation of the international community. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Nangwe, as you've heard from the two other panelists, their arguments against yours, I would like to add that other people who support your claim, Mr. Nangwe, are saying that foreigners not being able to be citizens in Liberia is a primary reason as to why they are exporting their cash out of Liberia. I mean, currently, what does it stand for people to really gain in Liberia, especially not only citizens but foreigners as well? I mean, they're able to, like like Dr. Jones just stated here, they're able to own properties through their kids or being married to one of our brothers or sisters, right, who are citizens by birth. So what is it of this 27B that really stops people, foreigners, from not really attaining the citizenship status or enjoyment or equal rights as citizens? Because as far as we talk about voting, that's one thing, but properties being in someone's name, technically your property does not have to be in my name for me to benefit from that property, right?
That's right.
Huh?
That's right.
I can go and build hotels and put it in, it can be in someone's name, and that cash flow from that can come right into my bank account, right? So what is it that these people need to do? Do you agree?
And let me take up your first point about voting. I think one of the things we want to I want to have that exclusive right to vote and select my president. But let's be honest, who really selects the president in Liberia, or who is the president answerable to? There's very Lebanese and Indians. That is a fact. You know, we can go to the polls all we want, and but they decide who becomes president of Liberia. That is a fact. All right. And let me tell my brother Elvis here. Yeah, Musa Ability may be supporting, the CMC, but I am my own person. In the CMC, we disagree. I mean, Jerry Yabo is on record today. He's in the press for disagreeing with Musa Ability on his perception of the present government's performance. We disagree in the CMC. That's democracy. We disagree with the leader. Yeah, Musa Ability is the leader of the CMC, but it doesn't mean we agree with everything he says. But let me tell you this: that whole 27B and even Liberian has been gutted. You understand me? It's just an empty bag that we are playing around with. There's nothing in it. Everything it is supposed to protect is being taken away through the back door. Who are we kidding here? My friend Yvonne Bright owns Sharks Ice Cream. You know how long she's been fighting for that right? It is one of the protected businesses in Liberia. But she's been competing with Nice Cream. Nice Cream is owned by Lebanese. He partnered with a Liberian. I mean, you look, let's be serious and start playing around like little kids here. You understand me? That law as it stands right now is useless. It just makes us look bad. We're advocating for equal rights around the world. We're on the UN Security Council and all over the place. And we are barring people from becoming citizens of Liberia. I think it's racist. That law needs to be thrown out the window. It is racist.
So if it is thrown out the window, walk me through a framework of how people will become.
I think the Constitution needs to be changed. I agree with Councilor Freeman, Warner Freeman, who's advocating it. There are a lot of people who are arguing now the Constitution does not even need to be revised. It needs to be changed entirely. I think the Constitution reflects the times of old. That law is meant to protect you and I, but is it really? No, it isn't. It really isn't. I mean, I'm talking to you right now about the Liberianization policy. What kind of business in Liberia? Right now, I was in Monrovia in January. The Lebanese and Indians are selling plenty chips in the store. Those are the things the women used to sell in the streets. They're selling everything. Those things are protected businesses, block making, the little businesses. What kind of business are they not in? So here is what many people, other countries do. The United States, where you and I are, for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger cannot become president of the United States because he wasn't born here, but he is a citizen here. He can do anything. He cannot become president. You can put in guardrails and you open up and let people come in. Just like you said, Russell, the people are taking away the money because we put too much difficulty in our way to develop Liberia, so to take it elsewhere. If you allow them to develop the country and own property and do whatever, that country is going to benefit enormously. I think this is childish. We're burying our heads in the sand here. You were talking about 27B, when in fact 27B is being gutted. What it seeks to protect is happening every day in Liberia.
Can I ask do you think that private property is development? Is that something that's development if someone builds a house?
What? Not only just private property, but the capacity to come in and invest openly.
Invest in what way? Because I think they're already investing.
They're already investing, but they're not allowed. They have to go through hoops to own private property in Liberia, to own the business. I mean, to own land, to build and all of that. Like I think Elvis or Dr. Malice described. They're going through third parties and all of that. We know a lot of the Lebanese kids, their parent put the mulatto kids who's mother Lebanese or father Lebanese and Liberian. They put the project, but they don't have to do that again. The law permits them to do that. They can come in and buy the whole place and build a factory and employ people. They're having difficulties doing that. And I think the ordinary people are suffering because of this law.
Thank you. Elvis, what do you have to say about that? I mean, if you do agree with this provision and let it be that way, is there anything else that we can change? Because there are a lot of loopholes that even though it does not permit people of a different race to become citizens, but we can see that they massively benefit from the country.
All right, thank you. Look, I think we made a mistake in recent times. And one of the mistakes we made, I think, was doing the dual citizenship push. And one of the provisions within that bill allowed women to pass their citizenship to their kids who are descendants of non-Negro parents. And that was something that was pushed by the Lebanese and lobbied for. One of the things that's going on in Liberia right now is lobbying. These guys are lobbying our politicians, like our former president, the likes of Musa Ability, who have a close relationship with a lot of these Lebanese and Indian people, and they're lobbying them to push this to pass so that they can gain citizenship. But let me go back to the last point I was making. So now the loophole is a guy, and I'm going to be crass here for a second. A guy can sleep with a Liberian woman, have a kid with her, not marry her, throw her by the wayside, marry maybe his Lebanese wife or Indian wife, and that kid now is his gateway into owning property in Liberia. So that kid is just like I don't even want to describe what the kid would be referred to as, but that kid now is a gateway to owning property. So he has his Lebanese family or his Indian family with one Liberian child that he had with some Liberian girlfriend that he had. And now he said, well, my son, who is of a Liberian mother and a Lebanese father, I'm going to buy properties or I'm going to build properties and put it in his name. And that's why the provision in our Constitution was put there. These men were visionary. We may have disagreed with them domestically within the country with certain policies that was prejudice against us, but in the spirit of the provision, I'm united with them in that spirit of the provision because the reality is, if you don't protect yourself, you leave yourself open, for exploitation. The point here is that laws don't defend themselves. You have to defend the law. You have to defend your constitution. So if you think that a law is written and it's not being enforced, then you criticize the law. The law itself can't do anything unto itself. You have to go and enforce that law. The criticism should be on the government that they're not doing enough to uphold our constitution. So if they're not protecting what the constitution says, that's the government's fault. Our laws are excellently written. They're there to protect us as Liberians. And if it's enforced, we should be reaping the benefit. But it's our politicians who are bought and sell themselves and the souls of other Liberians to foreigners. That's the criticism that we should be having here. And lastly, I will say this, right? Look, if a Lebanese man starts a business and he's doing something shady, he maybe buys land and he builds a big hotel, like somebody said, and he's reaping benefit from that hotel, and he didn't transfer that hotel in somebody's name legitimately, he's committing a crime. Legally, it's not legal for him to do that. So just saying that somebody is doing a crime and getting away with it and thereby the law is useless, that's a flawed argument. The reality is we should push our government to enforce the laws. Many Liberians in the West was advocating for dual citizenship because they feel like their kids were being disenfranchised because they couldn't own land if they couldn't have certain rights. They weren't born in Liberia and their parent had taken up a different citizenship. That should have been the crux of that whole issue, not to include women giving their citizenship to parents of non-Negro descent, of their kids. And that was not fought by Liberians. It was fought for Lebanese and Indians who wanted that provision put in that bill, and it successfully got it. So now it has opened the door a little bit for them to have property through their kids. But again, the kids, are the ones who can own property, not the parents, essentially. But look, Mr. Namwe and Dr. Mali, I will tell you this. Our unique history puts us in a unique place in the history of Africa. And as a person who is who lives in the West, or some people here who may have citizenship in this country, remember, Black Americans in this country, they didn't get citizenship until the late 1800s. Liberia was formed in 1847. So Black Africans on the continent who left this country had citizenship before the people who were living in this country had citizenship through the 14th amendment in the 1800s, in the late 1800s. So if you understand the history of the United States of America, now that we can have citizenship in this country as Black people, that wasn't afforded to us when Liberia was formed, even in this country. So the spirit of the law makes sense that you don't want your oppressors to come back in your own native land on the continent of Africa and start oppressing you economically, start oppressing you socially, start doing some of the same things that's happening in the United States, where they build exclusive neighborhoods and you can't live there. You're seeing it in South Africa, you're seeing it in other places where they build resorts and I hate to say it, your Black behind can't even step foot there unless you're of a certain class and caliber. So our country now becomes segregated based on money interest. So if you don't see that, and you don't see that's where the future is going to take us when we make these people citizens, and I'm sorry for us and our future generation, because it doesn't just hurt us. It hurts our kids who are coming up who now realizes that, well, that neighborhood, that Lebanese people neighborhood can go there. Or you see that business center over there, you can go there.
Elvis, I
Same
need to
things.
bring it to you. I
Just
need
a
to bring
quick
it to
question
you.
to Elvis.
But
Hold
how
on
many
one
people,
second.
how many ordinary Liberia you think can live in the Maba Point? Let me
Hold
bring
on
it
one
to you.
second, Mr. Namwe. Just a quick question to Elvis. Would you agree that some of these disenfranchises that you speak of, they're currently happening regardless of foreigners not being citizens?
It's currently happening, but the one retort we have is the Constitution. And I keep saying this because if our government decided to take drastic actions and say, look, everything that's going on here is illegal. As a Lebanese, you're not allowed to own these properties. They should be held by Liberian. I want to see the deed.
So
Your Liberian child.
it is our constitution that is the problem then, because it's not being enforced
No,
effectively.
it's not being enforced. So we're protected, even though they're doing it and it seems like it's going back on check. But once the action is to be taken, we can hide behind the protection of our constitution that says that it is prohibited for these people to own properties. Even if they're packed in this one area, the land doesn't belong to them. They're only renters. They can't own the property. So that's the thing that's protecting us. It's not that because they're doing it means that it's enshrined in our constitution. It's not. So once we have a government that says, look, what you're doing is illegal, we're going to enforce our constitution. You must relinquish this property in deed, not only in name, but in deed to your child. And if he decides to, do whatever he wants to do with, that's fine. But you don't own this property. Your child owns the property. If we do that, I think that then we are upholding our constitution. Until we do that, this is just a mouth talk. Not because everybody is doing it, Mr. Number, means that automatically becomes law. Illegality doesn't ubiquity doesn't supersede legality. Not because everybody is doing it means it's legal. That's not how the law works.
Thank
I'll
you.
pass the mic, Anthony.
Dr. Jones, your closing statement on this. Should Liberia maintain a race-based citizenship, and also, since the global environment has improved, should Liberia adjust to other African countries as well too? Like, what if we are choosing to make these people citizens, or if we agree to make these people citizens? What are some of the guidelines or guardrails can we put in place to actually, implement this system?
Well, we as a people, we first of all need to ask ourselves, what do we hope to achieve? That's the first question, right? But let me digress a bit to Evis' point that our history is unique. I went to school outside Liberia. And to be frank with you, I had Ghanaians standing up to me and telling me some of the very Ghanaian taught in our university. And maybe Evi would even remember some of them. One of them called Dr. Arthur. He was in his accounting area department, what have you. This guy was always making mockery of Liberians. That we are boastful, but we forgot to know that we're being redeemed by slaves who opened our eyes. And so I came to the conclusion that we as a people, we've been stigmatized by wounded slaves who opened our eye as a nation. And sometimes I see it to be very shameful to live in a country that are being inherited by slaves. You see, it really embarrassed me, to be very frank with you as a citizen. It really embarrassed me a lot. You see, because it's like we are being called slave descendants. All right, without them, we couldn't have succeeded. These are people who were never Liberians. They came from different part of Africa and was seeking for the homeland. And the homeland they came across, it was occupied. You had indigenous occupying that land. You see? So I don't think our history is unique. You cannot get unique history that is characterized by slaves who came to redeem you. So that's not a unique history at all. You never fought for your own independence. All right. Group of people who came, brought their lifestyle, and carry on the same segregation they suffer, marginalized the people the same way they were marginalized in the plantation, farms in the United States, then we said it is this same freedom that brought us here. Freedom did not bring my people in that place. But here is the argument. If this thing should be narrow to Negro or Negro descent, then why can't it be also inclusive of other African descent? Since we believe that Liberia should be a migrant state, I think this is where we're driving at now. Liberia should be a migrant state. Do we know why the late President Todman instituted and enforced the open door policy? Just to buttress this phrase. Open Liberia up for foreigners to come and help. You see, there where our leniencies started. You see, there where people came and start to abuse this little society. People are not coming to Liberia because they love the land. They're coming to Liberia because of our link with the United States, and through that, they can get opportunity to come to the United States. Now it's even worse. A lot of people are flocking into the system now because our laws are flexible. Our politicians are feeding on Lebanese as parasites. You see? And so at the end of the day, they have undercut a whole lot of stuff. Least we forget, since 2023, in exclusive indigenous have been running Liberia up to today. Or let's go back. Let's go from 1980. Well, 1980, I can't include it there because when Doe finally launched his revolution, he had to fall back again on some of the Congo boys that Emmanuel Shaw come into the system to prop him up. So it was a mixture one. But let's say from 2023 up to present, we have an exclusive indigenous politician hegemony running that system there, right? So they are feeding on the Lebanese and feeding on the Indians and other foreigners in the system to compromise some of our laws in that country. Like for instance, Mr. Nangwe, we're even talking about the issue of a Lebanese man selling a planting chip. That's an abuse to our sovereignty. Who are we as a people? But because of the danger of these type of laws, they come and marry my sister, and they have a child, and that child automatically become a Liberian, and now they have a store. The child have all right to sell a banana chip, planting chip in our store because the child is a Liberian. You see? So at the end of the day, if you grab that Lebanese guy now and try to send him out of Liberia, the first thing he will tell you, say, I'm a Liberian. I got my child here. All right?
Children can't transfer citizenship to their parents.
No. We think practically these things are not working because of the weaknesses of our society. They're not working. A Lebanese man will stand before you and tell you, say, I'll kill you and nothing can happen to me. And that's a fact. That is a fact. So they are exploiting the system. And we have got our indigenous since 2003 running our society. So the question now is, where is the missing link? Thank you.
Anthony, before you go to Mr. Nama, please give me 30 seconds. I know it's a hard discussion. Look, Mr. Dr. Jones, let me say this to you. Mr. Nama here knows I disagree with what the settlers and the founders of the country did domestically. But I'm united with them in purpose when it comes to fighting the historical oppressors of Black people on this globe. So say that they were slaves is inaccurate in the first place. A lot of them were free men. A lot of them were free people. Some who had never been enslaved. They came from people who were enslaved. Enslavement is a state of being. You know, nobody is a slave by nature. You can be enslaved and you can be free. Once you're free, you're no longer enslaved. So these people had a noble idea to found a nation where they could be safe. The idea The principle of those things are something that we should all admire as Black people. Our skin says that we should be unified with these people in purpose. Now, you can argue about some of the things that took place on the land. That's our domestic issues like family. We can fight amongst ourselves in our household. But when it comes to standing against those who oppress us and put our people in slavery, and discriminated against Black people purely based on their skin, if us Africans was here during that time, we would have been treated the same way that you did those Black people who were in America. So we're not against them in that purpose. But let me say this. If we are not protecting ourselves by enforcing our laws, that's on us. That's on us. So I keep saying that. The reality is the laws was there to protect us. And maybe because we didn't go through slavery in this country, our ancestors didn't go into slavery. As Africans, we don't understand what it means to be truly independent and have exclusionary laws to keep your historic oppressors away from you. The reason we're even in this country is because of the African Americans who fought for the rights to have, civil rights in this country. They fought to have the 14th Amendment passed in this country so that we as African Black people can come to this country and have citizenship. So I disagree with them on the domestic things that happen in Liberia, but overall, I stand with them when it comes to Black unity and African unity, against white oppression. I stand with them. Thank you, Anthony.
So we can all conclude on this issue that foreigners are not really our issue. Our issue is
absolutely. And as we're moving on, Anthony, let me just say to my two brothers here, including you, right? What I see on set here are Liberians. I don't have any more appetite for this native Congo dichotomy, you against us dichotomy. I think it's part of the things that keeping Liberia where it is. How many people in Sierra Leone know a Congo person from a native person, or Ghana, or Nigeria? We're talking about people coming to invest in the country. I'm not talking about Lebanese and Indians alone. I'm talking about somebody from Czechoslovakia or somebody from Canada who may want to come and put a factory down that will employ hundreds of Liberians, but who is being inhibited because of our stupid, empty law on the books. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Phoenicians alone. I'm not talking about these people who come in there, come from poor background, they've never been rich and come to Liberia and rich themselves, and so they don't know how to behave. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real people who want to come into Liberia and invest in the country and help us. That's what I'm talking about. So whether Congo people live in Liberia and rule Liberia for 133 years and did nothing, and native people come in for 23 years and do nothing, together, we've done nothing for the country. That is what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about the help that we could get from sensible lawmaking. Right now, our laws on the books, I think they're working against us because whether we like it or not, what we have are empty laws on the books. The people are exploiting the law. They're doing what it is that we said they shouldn't do anyway. So why are we wasting ourselves? What we fooling? We just got to veil over our faces, but it is happening. Newsflash, it is.
Go to Zambia, where the Chinese are whipping Zambians on the street, abusing them. No, let me finish, please, Mr. Let me finish, please, Mr. Nambwe. Go to these countries, even Kenya, where the Indians are there abusing the Kenyans. That's what we want in our country. To have these people come in and have a Germany where they can abuse us in our own country, and we say in the name of investment, we should let these foreigners. You mentioned Czechoslovakia. Do you know how those Balkan countries are so racist against Black people? You think a Czech is going to come in Liberia and invest? And invest in Liberia and respect the native African man? Of course not. These people are racist, and once you let them come in your country, they're going to met our racism on the common Liberian man. I guarantee you.
Mr. Nangwe, you mentioned that you want this so that people can come in and invest. Are there any laws that are preventing someone from commonly just investing in Liberia? Because I don't have to be a citizenship of South Africa to invest in South Africa. I don't have to become a citizenship of Liberia to go and invest in Liberia. So why is it only investment that I need to attain a citizenship for to invest?
Well, if
I only care about my money. I don't care about my legality or my status. As long as I'm there legally with my money legally, I just want to invest and get my return and move on. I don't care about me attaining citizenship, voting, lobbying for laws. I don't care about that. I only care about my investment and my money.
That's true. And that could be you, Russell, but then there could be the Nangwe who might want to be the lawmayor of Redru. Why I'm also doing business. I want
Then
that.
that should be your point as to why it
I
is
should
that,
be able
yeah.
to do that. I should be able to do
Well,
that.
a white foreigner should be a mayor in Wedru.
But hold on, what you cannot do is to say that these people need to come in to attain citizenship for investment purposes. You know, it just doesn't.
Not only
sound right.
that, I mean, if I want to come in and be a part of the society, maybe I don't want to just come here and do business. And then there's also the worry if I put my $5 million business factory down and tomorrow, something happens, I worry that I may not have that much power to fight like I would if I were a citizen. So these apprehensions are there. Plus what I just said. Maybe I want to be the police IG for Maryland County for Harper. Why I'm also doing business. I mean, these are intangibles. They may seem, but those are real pressing concerns.
Let me ask a further question again. When has the last time a foreigner actually felt the weight of the Liberian law?
I don't remember any, but that doesn't mean it cannot be done. I think it just happened by chance that it is happening, and
so you don't think that they're already taking advantage of the?
They already are, and that's what I'm saying
right.
to you. What we have in the books really is it just makes us look bad to the rest of the world. It's a racist law.
No, it's not what's on the book. It's not what's not being enforced that's making us look bad.
But let's move on.
Yeah, Mr. Nangwe, I got 1 second question for Mr. Nangwe.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me make this. Let me be a bit hypothetical. Not just envisage seeing a Lebanese man president of Liberia.
Think about that.
Let's just imagine a scenario: a Lebanese man sitting in the executive mansion. Let's think about that. And lots, you see, Ever brought some good illustration here. Czechoslovakia, where racism is moving. You will have to be tough to underscore the relevance of your own identity as a people. You have to be tough. You have to wear thick skin. This is where I respect the Ghanaian. They love their country. They're so jealous of their country to the point where sometimes they go against foreigners. You see, we don't have those spirit, not at all. So you see now, Liberia, since post-war, look at the influx of different type of alien in our country right now. I'm not even talking about the Chinese. Now the teaching Chinese language in a school at the University of Liberia to be part of the curriculum.
Somewhere in
very
there,
soon, the Chinese
somewhere in there?
And very soon, the Chinese will now be advocating for citizenship because they want to stick in our society. So where is our consciousness as a people?
Yeah.
To be jealous of our society.
Okay, last words goes to Mr. Nangwe, and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. So, Dr. Malley,
yeah.
First of all, I prefaced my statement earlier by saying the law will have guardrails. I used the example of Arnold Schwarzenegger in this country. He can never be president of this country. The law doesn't allow that. I don't see how a Lebanese is going to be president of Liberia. The law is not supposed to allow that. But they can be citizens. Look, let me tell you something. You're talking about what is happening. Look, since the days of Berry, how many times have foreigners not gotten away scot-free in Liberia for doing the most abominable thing? I mean, look at Princess Cooper. I mean, I can go and name it. Look at Lucas Riches. I can go and name it. This law on the boat is empty.
It's not the law's fault.
It doesn't have the bite, but then
Nangwe, do you envisage a future where a Lebanese can bribe his way to become president of Liberia?
No, I envisage today. It is happening today. They can do anything they want.
Oh boy!
I know. I have to find his way to the executive.
Okay, gentlemen. Let's move on.
One last statement before you move, Anthony. Liberians are liberal people. You know, really, we're liberal people. What we need is a pinch of nationalism. And like Mr. Dr. Jones was saying, Ghanaians are nationalistic. they're protectionist when it comes to their country. And what I'm hearing from Mr. Number today, is liberalism in the form that, well, our laws are not being respected, so let's let the Lebanese be citizens. No, we have to protect our inheritance,
No,
which is our
today I'm
citizenship.
saying
We
make
have
the
to
laws
protect it.
correct.
Okay, gentlemen. Okay, gentlemen. I think we can agree to disagree, and what it is that we are going to settle on here is that one, we have acknowledged, like I've stated before, that the law does not really is not effective because of the bodies that are actually enforcing that law, from from the executive down to the actual policeman, right? These laws need to be enforced. These laws need to be in public. It needs to be made aware of, and it needs an example. Like I stated, there's not been an example in my entire life being a Liberian where I've seen an actual foreigner commits a crime. I'm talking about foreigner of a high status of a class that comes in and commits a crime and actually got prosecuted for that crime. I've not seen that yet. So we understand that the law, the Constitution, it needs to be reformed, but it also needs enforcer. It needs to be implemented and enforced so that our people can understand that these laws exist and they're in our Constitution, and it should not be a theoretical thing that we are talking about here right now, because all it seems that is theoretical, hypothetical things, but these things are actually happening in Liberia, where foreigners all the time, they abandon, I would say, they break these laws and nothing actually comes out of it. And we have seen it time and time again with rubber plantation, I would say Salala, if that's how you call it, with the workers and worker conditions out there. There was a burning incident that happened that just went underneath the rug. We also have an incident with a young lady who had her throat slit open, and we saw how that situation was treated as well. So these are laws that are actually on the books, but it needs to be practiced and it needs to be enforced so that other people can come into the country knowing that this is a country of law, and they should be protected. If I'm a citizen of another country, I want to be protected for that country. I just don't want to come to Liberia knowing that, oh, I can just get money and go. But that's the reason as to why some of these foreigners just come to Liberia only for the monetary benefits. They don't really care about the constitutional benefits, because they really don't see the benefits to vote in. They don't see the benefits to really putting their name down on documentations and things like that, as long as they're benefiting monetarily from these properties, these different avenues that they have created to be beneficiaries from. So let's go ahead and talk about the land governance and eminent domain. We have seen a lot of videos on social media recently with the current administration actually, demolishing some properties. And what I want to get into is, what is the process of how properties get demolished in Liberia? Let's give a context to what's actually happening, because we need to understand that these are not just like people are not just waking up. The government is not just waking up and going breaking down people's properties, but they have the correct paperwork, right? And what does that paperwork look like? How do they attain that paperwork, and how do they carry out the demolition process? So, Elvis, do you want to chime into that and give a little bit of context to how that is?
I mean, personally, I don't know a lot about what's going on with that situation. I think I've seen people complain that they didn't have forewarning before their property was demolished. But one thing I would advocate for is what we have here in the United States, where before you can build anything in this country, you need a permit. And what many people don't understand why that permit is necessary, for one, is based on the infrastructure of this country. So the piping infrastructure, right, and the electrical infrastructure of this country is usually underground. Usually it's like 12 feet underground. So if you go in there and you want to build a home and you start digging your foundation and you go and you cut that wire that's bringing electricity into that neighborhood, or that bringing water into that neighborhood, that's a catastrophic mistake that you're going to make, that's going to cost the nation or that city a lot of money. That's why a permit is necessary, because you go to the register, they're going to see what that plot of land is, they're going to know what's underneath it, and they're going to tell you, well, this is here, this is there. Make sure you avoid this and make sure you avoid that. Or before you build, we have to go in there and take that wire from underneath that. All of these things are very important. I'm just giving you an example why permitting is important. So when people go into Liberia and build without permit, they're building alleyways, they're building, they build on disputed lands,
On
and the
roads.
government now, yeah, or roads, the government now is enforcing that. What I hope that they would have done is to give a public announcement that this was going to be happening, either give people a mail or go there and personally give them and serve them with papers that where you are is government land, or it's in an alleyway, or it's on a road, and we're going to break down your property. Give them forewarning. And if they did that, I have no problem with it. But what the people are telling us, that they had no forewarning, their properties are just being broken down without uh, uh, warning to them. So for me, we have to start using the permitting system to build like a lot of us. We like that it's so easy to build. Just buy a plot of land, you go put the house down. You don't really have to get a lot of permits and a lot of red tips like we will call it here in America. But those things are important. City planning is very important. Community planning is very important. It keeps things in a structured way. It makes sure the community are well planned out. It gives alleyway a chance so people can navigate and not be walking in your yard and walking by your house, trying to squeeze by. So all of those things are important. In a civilized society, we need to enforce these common social engineering programs to make sure our society is well planned out and our community is safe, from building alleyways and building on roads.
Correct. Just a further question. As the president stated, do you? I mean, she's stating these. The former president, she's stating these things as if it's a current administration a problem or issue. What do you think about that?
Well, again, look, I didn't want to go back and criticize her for not doing enough in her time as president, but I'm not going to go there. I think the president boycott. He has certain people in his administration who, like the lit Joe Tit, had that spirit of him, right? Where don't sell on the roadside of the market. We'll give you a warning. The next time we come in, we'll break everything down as we go. It seems violent and it seems harsh, but Liberians should respect the authority of the constituted government. So if the government tell you you're not allowed to do this, the one recourse you have, if you think you're being wrong, get a lawyer, go to court and challenge the government. The court will then interpret what the government said, if it's constitutional or not. And that's how civilized people do things. You don't go and wish yourself on the ground, start crying, rolling in the dust, and think that's going to help you. You go through the court system, which is your final recourse to get redress on any issue. So if they think that they're being wrong, go to court. And secondly, I applaud the government for doing this because laws have to be enforced. They're not enforcing certain laws, but I'm glad they're enforcing this law. And hopefully, more and more laws will be enforced as this government term, comes to a close.
Thank you, Mr. Namwe. What do you think about this situation? You have citizens, properties that the government has categorized as they invade, alleyway, that they need to remove these properties for development. And this has been, I remember when I used to be in Liberia 2013, I saw countless demolitions, and I went back and I still, I saw that the necessary development that the government intended for that demolished area was not allocated for. So should we be able to trust this government to bring in these developments that they're talking about, or is it something that is going to be very repetitive from the last government? I mean, the previous governments that we have seen. You're muted.
I think the land rights and enforceability problem is an intractable problem that predates this government. I think the problem many of us were having with this government or are having is, the apparent lack of humanity in which they are going about it. I think that's what troubled a lot of us. The president talk about government doesn't mean God doesn't make new land and all of that. But it seems as though the president is backpedaling now. I saw during the week, I think they expanded the LRRC. It is that agency which is responsible for repatriation of refugee, internally displaced persons. So because people like these people, and the former president is acknowledging the difficulty of dealing with this problem. On the one hand, the people who are entitled to the property that they pay for, and then on the other hand are the squatters who practically have been on the property for years, some 20 years, 30 years. They know nowhere else to go. How do you find the sweet spot? How do you find the middle ground? I think that's what the former president is raising, and I disagree with those who are decrying her. Oh, she could have done it. She could have solved all the problems in Liberia. She did her part, and she acknowledged that. I mean, to say she should have solved this and solved that and solved that and solved that, to me, I think again
What do you mean
is
by she did her part?
I
What
think she
part
did.
in this land dispute that
She solved the problem. She was able to
She
solve
did
them.
the land reform. That was an instrumental law.
Yeah. So, so I'm saying that she couldn't have solved all of Liberia's problems during the 12 years she
And when
was.
was that land reform?
2018.
I think it was
2018.
2018. Yeah,
Okay.
2018.
So
At
that
the end
was
of her presidency.
she was
Yeah.
about to.
Right. So,
Right.
I'm a little bit I'm beginning to think that this government is finally putting some thoughts into how to go about this. I'm assuming that the LRRC will find a spot for these people who may suddenly become homeless and shelter them while they find a way to relocate them. But if the owner of the
don't you
land
think
goes,
that would have been done prior to the demolition?
that is what I'm saying. That the initial steps that were taken, the initial way it was being done, I believe lacked any kind of humanity. And so, if, for instance, the expansion of the LRRC is to now find a way to prepare for these people and humanistically transfer them from these legally owned properties for by other people, because as a government, you can't have someone go to court and the court say, you are entitled to your property, and then you go and circumvent the legal ruling. The government can't do that. It will be lawless. So I think this president, I'm hoping this is where they're going with this. And so hopefully we'll find a way so that the squatters or these people who have developed these lands that don't belong to them will be taken out and put in a place that will allow them time to relocate. Maybe also giving them a little bit of assistance to help resettle. But it is a very difficult problem that I think this government started going about. I think in a knee-jerk way, but it looks to me like they're trying to finally figure it out and do it right. I hope. I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I honestly, as being a host, I mean, I'm not supposed to be biased, but I think that this is doing before planning. I don't think that this actually took any proper planning or thinking behind this. I think that you should give the people a proper framework as to, give them a warning, maybe a year or two. We understand that development is a very, very tough issue. And some people, as the president stated, it might be painful. We understand that. But as we walk through these painful moments, we should be able to better prepare ourselves emotionally and financially as well. You cannot break people's homes down and then come to them and say, okay, now we're going to plan to relocate you, if we even thought about relocating you. If the relocation was there prior, it should have happened before the demolition. Dr. Jones, governance is a very is a continuity. So did Elaine Johnson did what she was supposed to do? Do you think that she set the foundation or the framework that she was supposed to set to make this process go smoothly for other regimes that were supposed to, that are coming after her or that came after her? And what do you think of the current situation right now of the government thinking that, of the government demolishing properties in the name of development?
Well, I think the issue of the land reform is not a strange phenomenon in our society. These are some of the byproduct of a liberal government. As Evie said, when you're running a liberal system, people abuse the system. And this is where corruption can never be punished in Liberia because of leniency, patronage, and tradition. Why I and my wife and children will just go and encroach on government land and sit there for years and born children. These are some of the culture of social impunity. You're not supposed to do that. So because now we have had a government now that is enforcing this thing using legal tools like eviction. People, these are strange things to the Liberian people. Assuming we have started this thing here from 1847. You see, the Great America, people live with a system and the system keep biting and they got adjusted and they used to it. Can you just go on the road there and throw trash in America? You in your car, you just throw that can somewhere? No, you will be punished to the fullest. So what we're seeing here is that this is a lifestyle that has gone on for a very long time. So the question now is, a government has been put in place and the government have decided going forward, you cannot eat your cake and have it. Development is development. Development don't come with bread and butter. It comes with tears and sweat. Those are who've been set in places, it's about time to leave. But I agree with Mr. Nangwe and the host, since that is the trend of history, our people just can't encroach on land. I think an extensive education is needed to let them understand that encroaching on the land, these are the punishment. You can go to court, you will be evicted. And when that time comes, when the yellow machine appear, just know that judgment day has arrived and you got to get way. 1, 2, you get insufficient time because you realize that Morovia was not designed for the type of population it has right now. You see, since the Civil War, I mean, the post-war Liberia, all the refugees that went across the globe, they end up in Morovia. Everybody ending up in Morovia. And the corruption story has even made people going to Morovia now, they have made it more attractive. Even our brothers and sisters now that are living from technical schools to be self-sufficient, everybody want to go into politics because the indigenous politicians have set the stage now that if you don't go there, you cannot live better life. You see? So education is necessary and giving them some more time is necessary. Making a follow-up is necessary, but ensure that they will be evicted. They should rather know. Read the law to them that they will be thrown on the street. They will be homeless. And when you occupy the street too much, another arm of government will come and remove you from there. And where they're taking you, don't want to stay there, and they will have to send you to the interior. It's like you will have to educate these people. Because it seems to be the government of today and even yesterday try to implement the laws, but we've forgotten to know that there has been a way of life for a long time, long even before the Civil War. People have been encroaching on government land in that place, you see. So we need to understand all those intricacies and see how best we can go about doing it. But evicting them is necessary. But we should also do our homework as a government. Don't forget, we are running our society with human face, a little bit of tradition and a little bit of politics. There's the reason why when I stay in Liberia and you come grab me and my uncle is the deputy minister somewhere, everybody start begging. You begging for corruption? The host is putting cap on corruption, punishment? Really? So I think education is one of the things that those agencies that are responsible, they need to be having a town hall meeting, okay, to just educate people. So if you're in that meeting and you know you're sitting down on government land, you leave from there with your note. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let
Okay,
me say this real quickly, Russell, before you
okay,
move on,
go ahead.
right?
Sure.
In Liberia, and I'm reading this from, you can Google it, squatters' rights are primarily governed by legal principle of adverse possession, which allows an individual to claim ownership of private land after occupying it for a specific duration without the owner's permission. So squatters do have right. Now, additionally, recent now they say under the 2018 land rights law, a person can acquire legal title to private land through continuous uninterrupted possession under the following conditions without color of title if a person occupies land under an asserted claim of right, but without a deed, they must remain in possession for at least 20 years. Some of these people have occupied these lands for over 30 years. So it's very complicated. It's not just a matter of bringing bulldozer and
Okay,
evicting people.
but
Let them go to court and make that
I got a
case to
question for
the
you, Mr.
judge.
Lambe.
Okay, yeah, okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Elders,
just
let's
one
hear from
minute.
you.
My question now is, why the people are not going to court or taking government to court to let us look at these laws and balance this whole legal stuff? Why? Because I have not seen one person going to court or maybe seeking a legal advice. Because what you see, are you hearing that? To rather go to court and challenge government would be
But you
here.
don't know that, Dr. Malley. Some of these cases have gone on for years, for decades, because these people have
Oh,
also
okay.
gone to court.
Oh,
Some
all
of
right.
these cases date back to the 80s.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
can I come here, Anthony?
Yes, sure.
Look, this is a great opportunity for our government to invest money in public housing.
I
You
agree
know,
with you.
yes, when we see our budget, we barely ever see anything about public housing.
Instead
$10
of
million.
putting $10 million in for you.
Yeah. $10
Yeah,
million in public housing can build not just these little estate, but apartment complexes where you have maybe 50 unit per apartment, building. And you take some of those people from West Point, from some of those slum communities, which in reality are actually prime property locations because they're near the water. You can, if you really revitalize that area, those places can be well developed. So you start to disperse people out into places like Margibi, bringing more people into the rural areas by building, apartment buildings and building housing for them. Some of them can be low income, maybe average income and luxury apartments. Our government needs to start doing this. Look, I'll give you an example of a place in Nigeria called Makoko. Makoko is a place, it's like it's a slum community, but it's on the water. And a lot of people who, were escaping slavery and some other people who just was down in the luck, they were living in that place for decades. And the Nigerian government just recently decided to demolish that place because one, it was unsanitary, it was unsightly, and they wanted to get rid of those people. And some of these people have been relocated, to decent places, to live. So I think our Liberian government have to invest more money into public housing. And if they do this, a lot of people who are living in those squalor, conditions in West Point and other places, they can be given decent homes at a cheap rate or even subsidized by our government. We have to start taking care of our people, especially even our elderly who are unable to take care of themselves. So some of these budget that we're making and we're giving money to representatives and spending money and through through backdoor channels, we need to stop doing that.
changing
And I
cars every
think
3 years.
right. And I think Margibi will probably benefit the most because you take people out of the center of Monrovia, you bring them a little further down into Margibi, you build apartment complexes, nice, maybe estates. I'm not even really in favor of estates, but apartment complexes, you can fit 50 people, 100 people in a nice apartment building, and you have families, two family units or whatever the case may be. And that way we have our city being freed up for more development. And then you have more prime real estate in that area and maybe developer can find land and the government can build all the government facilities within the city proper. So our government have to take this opportunity. Anybody who's listening, start advocating for public, housing to be funded by our government. We have
Yeah,
the tax money now, and we have the
Mhm.
budget that can allow $10 million alone
if
a
you
year on a per annum can build three nice big apartment buildings or at least 50 unit per apartment. We can
if
do
you
that.
if you listen to the president's State of the Nation address, he mentioned that he plans to build 600 housing units in throughout 6 counties. So is that something that can work for some of these people? Because I'm pretty sure that the amount of people that are being evicted and the properties that are being demolished, there are definitely more than 600 people that will be affected if this goes on throughout this year, right? And we'll now have to talk about what are some of the qualifications for for that 600 housing units? Will people be paying? Is it government sponsored?
But Tony,
Yes, sir.
that was top plan. You see the Vera Estes, you see 12th Street, Toba had a master plan. Okay, but the question now is, I think we need to leave Moravia to Moravians and have a new capital city and have a layout properly. Yes. Because
we can't. We don't have the money for it, Dr. Malik and P.
no. To be very frank with you, Elvis, the money is there. It just being misappropriated. The money, look, we have money in our country. I can tell you no lie. Money is in our country. But the question now is priority. You see what you just talked about? It's a priority. But is it a priority to pass in present government? I don't think so. Since that assets were laid, the layout of that asset up to today, I have not seen anything new again.
Yeah. Estate nowadays are impractical. Building 10 different houses in a compound is not the best way. Build upward, vertically, and that way you can stock a lot more people in that space. They're just building 10 houses in a big old plot of land. So I think building apartment complexes is probably the better way than building estates.
That's going to be another serious problem, because that will be modernization, and it might be strange to some people, maintenance problem. So it's like, all these things come with education. That will even be too serious of a project for our people. Little flat.
That's an insult to our people, Dr. Mike.
I think a little flat with a lot of rooms, I think that would be okay for now, for our status.
What do you have to say, Mr.?
I wanted to agree with Dr. Malley and Mr. Morris, and quickly. I think what they're suggesting, for instance, this $10 million, I think by laying that on the land, I agree with my friend Fish Electronic here. Low cost housing. I think you probably use that to solve so many problems. By laying that money out, the owners of the land will know that you are serious to remove the squatters, and the squatters themselves will know that there is something to look forward to, and you could have solved this problem. You didn't have to go through the demolition and all of that. And so I agree. I think part of our problem, it's a leadership problem. And as I'm sure you're moving on to the next topic. I just wanted to quickly say, we're talking about citizenship, patriotism, pride for country. What is it that we have to be proud for, other than the fact that we're Liberians? What really is it that we are going to be proud about? What is it? What is it that I'm so proud? Yeah, I love my palm butter because I'm a girl, man, and that makes me happy. I love my country, but what is it that we did? I listened to this Ghanaian woman today renting this situation in Ghana, and my blood was boiling because she's right. Everything she said there. We don't love each other. We killed so many of our compatriots in this war. We fled to Ghana. They fed us in Bujumbura. We shut the F up. We're little ants. They don't have time for us. They're our bosses. All of what you said was right. I remember in the 80s and so Ghanaians, they used to come to Liberia and they were queuing in their country, but they figured it out. Leadership. That's what we need in Liberia. We need that leader who will help us set the tune. We got money in Liberia. Like, the country is wealthy. All this flying up and down, I think is evading the problem. The problem is right there. Why are we still giving people gasoline for working for government? Why are we buying them cars? Can we take all this fat and repurpose this money and develop the country? It's a small country. It has water. It has sun. We are so blessed, but we are cursed. We have a leadership problem.
No, I don't think we are cursed. But Mr. Namwe, you think the housing project that Evie just talked about could be a diaspora project? Because they will invest into it and still get their money back.
It could be.
But instead, we are investing heavily in politics for a reward of a government job. So everybody got different priority here. You see?
Hmm.
And like
I
whatever
like that
gets
the
said,
June he
Tony,
can pose a
wait one
question,
thing.
then he
Like
answer it
whatever
himself.
gets said, I think to have a successful and responsible government running in Liberia, you need to have this segment of racism into it, and you tough and very protective. Of course, you need it. Okay? And if it means that you got to drive away some illegal aliens to create a corridor for your people to rise up, you do it. I went to school in Ghana.
Nationalism is the word.
I
Nationalism.
even got a job. Less than 2 months, the immigration officer came down there and said, "Oh, you guys were sponsored by the UNHCR. When you go home, you can make use of your degree. But the job you occupy now, Ghanaian need to do this job." I will never forget that statement. Nationalism in Ghana is very strong, and that's the only way we can build Liberia. Our hands are too open to too many people, and very soon, Boko Haram will get a slot in our system. Thank you.
The full of people coming for you. Go Boko Haram come for you. People say talking about religion.
I
But
do
let me just say this quickly, right, Dr.
I
Mali?
do agree. Hold
I
on one
want
second.
what
I
I
do
want.
agree with Mr. Nambwe's statement, right, about you know, the system not working and how we need to understand that we have to position ourselves as Liberians. You know, when we talk about land, I think that this land issue is not something that I started from today. We just rampantly seeing it now. We saw Mira Broy's regime
Yep.
as a mayor in real life in several market areas, and after you go back for a couple of years, you see these people come back on the land, on the road, they're selling on the road. So it is also not just a leadership problem, but it is also a societal issue. Are we as Liberians, are we assisting our leaders to be able to make the right arguments to say, okay, you people are not doing your jobs? Because if someone is telling you to remove your market, or you're selling things from on the road, and you continuously go back there, you're not only breaking the law, but you're putting yourself at greater risk of being hit by anything. You can be hit by a keke, car, or at worst, motorcycle. How many times we've seen deaths in Liberia where people got ran over because they were selling in the streets, and nothing came out of that situation. So I think that we need to be able to not just build for like for the next 5 years, but for us to be able to build for the future. And we need to map out Liberia. We need a serious government will go to the planning booth and sit down with architects and really design how Monrovia should be, how Montserrado should be. Let's just say Montserrado, and then we can take that framework and and establish it in other counties, or maybe we can go to a very free county and establish a little bit of framework and come back to Montserrado and see how we can implement these frameworks. But we have seen these demolition happening from Ellie Johnson's time. The development was not there. What is it to these people? And I feel like that's why these people are complaining. And as I watch these videos, some of the women in there were saying that we're not mad at the demolition happening, but it's just that it should be followed by the development, right? And the development needs to be funded. These are not just things that we come and sit down, or the government will sit down and talk about in the State of the Nation address, but it needs the proper funding. And with the proper funding, it needs the proper framework. And it needs the proper people that can drive these framework and implement these framework so that they can be structural evidence of development. So that if the president or the past president can come and say, oh, development needs to be painful, and she can point to a structural framework and can show that, okay, this happened because we drove people out of here and we built this, and now people are benefiting from this structure, then Liberians will be like, okay, now we can move out of West Point. Now we can move out of these crowded areas and see how best the government can develop this country. But the government is not showing any motive to develop, and the citizens as well too. They are reluctant in their ways to sit down and say, you're not going to show any motive. I myself too will not respect the laws, because You on the other end are not respecting the laws. So I think that's the issue here.
No, but Tony, this lifestyle, I want to classify as a lifestyle.
It is.
It has been going on for a very long time. It cannot be a Joseph Baka problem.
It is
So
not.
I think this government is doing something now for people to remember that as long the UP remain in power, encroacher will be in trouble. But can we get in their day in court and get in enough time and education? Because if we start this, if this government continue with this trend, probably the next 12 years, people will get used to it now, and people are not going to encroach on people's land. But it's like, look at ourselves. Why is it that the citizenry can be taking the government for fun? Making fun of our government. Why?
Because the
Because
government, they'll argue that the
like for
government takes
instance,
themselves for fun as
we
well.
once upon a time had this police director called Joe Tate. I think we can still remember, right? Joe Tate is coming. You see? So it seems to be certain segment of our citizenry can study the leadership and say, oh, the leadership here, I think we can play around it. Oh, I think we can play around the leadership here. They're not consistent. They say this, tomorrow they change it. And the citizens don't respect you. Like for instance, in this country, nobody coming to educate you. You try it, they use the law to educate you. And when you leave from there, you repeat it again. You see? Why is it that you can't find someone going to defecate in the middle of the street? First of all, the police will grab you. The next thing they want to find out whether something wrong with your brain. And they found out nothing wrong with your brain, then that's severe disobedience. They want to deal with you. So the question now is, why we can't enforce our laws? I think there where the missing link is coming from. And that has gone on ever for a very long time. You see? And Mama, disappointment here is this. I thought it was the Congo hegemony. But that's not it. We have the indigenous board running the system here for a long time now. So of them inside our whole thing from parliament to the judiciary, the executive, so indigenous board running the system now. Why are they not enforcing the law? Where is the missing link? Is it
And let me say this, Mr. Dr. Mala, please.
Yeah.
Let me just look. I think social engineering is required.
Okay.
And what do I mean? What do I mean by that? We have to understand that certain things are unacceptable, and it's almost should be a taboo. For example, it's a simple thing. Every home that's built must have an inbuilt toilet within that home. It must be a must. We have to engineer ourselves to realize that a home is not a home without a toilet. You can't build a makeshift, structure and go defecate in public. Socially, is unacceptable. We have to social engineer ourselves to respect the authority of our constituted government. Police officers have a constituted authority over you to enforce and keep the peace of the community and the society. You have to have that in your mind. When we come into this country, I remember when we came here, my father had to go to a community class and how to interact with the police as a black male, what some of the things you can do when you're driving, how to interact with the police. So these people do these things because they're socially engineering you in how to interact with the authority that's in this country. We're not doing that in Liberia. We also have to put social safety programs for our people. One of the fiduciary responsibility of government is to protect the lives and the property of people. And part of protecting their life is their livelihood. If somebody is living in squalor and you're looking at it and you can't do anything to protect that person's life and they're dying from diseases at a young age, you're negligent in your fiduciary responsibility. So I think social engineering us to realize that certain things are unacceptable. Defecating in public, littering on the street, making your country dirty, is unacceptable. Building homes or toilet is a necessity that every home must have, and also government must help these people who are struggling. Build affordable housing. Make sure you have a healthcare system where people can probably pay into it, and at least kids at a certain age or older people get free healthcare within that country, and the government foots this bill. $10 million a year, $15 million a year added to the budget for certain groups of people who are vulnerable. You got to do certain things for your people. You can't just eat off the people and leech off the people and not give back to the people through social safety programs. It has to happen.
Thank you. As we move on to
So where do
the
we
Russell,
start from?
before you move on, let me remind Dr.
Put it in the
Malik
budget.
because
Where do
Allocate
we?
millions in the budget and formulate plans that will help the Liberian people. We have smart people in the legislature. Put
Yes.
$10 million, $20 million in that budget of $1 billion is barely even 1% of that money. And then formulate a plan that people can use, do a pilot program, get older ladies, younger kids on the program where they pay $15 or $10, and every month they can go to the clinic and the clinic will send that bill to the government and the government will pay that bill like we do in America. Do a
Yeah,
test pilot.
that will only work first of all when you put corruption under control. You don't put corruption under control, that good idea is going to vanish.
So,
would
Russell, let me
you,
remind Dr. Malik here because he keeps coming back to this theme, and I'm really shying away from it. But let me remind him, he keeps saying indigenous people run Liberia, indigenous people, 23 years. May I remind you, Dr. Malik, Charles MacArthur Gange Taylor was president of Liberia for 6 years of those 23 years. He's not a native man.
Just have
Judy
native and have tradability.
Judy Bryan, well, every done the Robin, please, before I lose my thought, I owe.
Sorry.
Judy Bryan was 2 years president. That we so surprised for in 23. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she's not a native president. She was president for 12 years. So when you add all these, and I'm sure there are other intervening presidents.
The man's first name is UD. UD. What does UD mean?
Yeah, the Maryland, but I mean,
Yeah, okay.
so when you take all
If that be your argument, Mr. Nambe, then we can take the year from 1944. Because Papa was born in Maryland.
The failure of Liberia is a failure of all of us. I don't really want to dwell on who feel more than the others.
No.
To me, it is immaterial. I said that to you. You go right to the Ivory Coast. Nobody knows anything about Congo and native. You go to Sierra Leone. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What the people care about is that we are the least in the whole region. Somebody said we are behind every country that is behind. I think that's what we should be focusing and concentrating on. How do we bring our collective talent, energies, resourcefulness together and build this one little poor country? So really, please don't bore me with your indigenous.
No, Mr. Nambe,
I want to hear it, Dr. Male.
Tony, I think no. This thing can never go away from his story. You know why the cooking?
Oh no, that's a different.
Yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole, please.
Now, the fact of the matter here is that the indigenous have been in charge for a long time. What has changed? Nothing has changed.
That's a different. We at the end of the day, we're all Liberians. That's a different topic. So far we've talked about Article 27B that talks about citizenship, birthright citizenship, and also naturalization. And the discussion for the Friday night debate stems from former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's visit to the House of Legislature, where she talks about some of the things, and some of the things that she talked about happen to be the Article 27B citizenship and birthright that comes from birthright or naturalization. She also talks about land governance and the demolition. She says that in order for our country to move forward, we have to make painful decisions, right? But I'm not sure if she's considering that these painful decisions comes with consequences, especially 2029 is near, and when election time comes, Liberian people always remind you what it is that you did to them or did for them, and these are some of the things that we have to put into context, right? Are we setting up the right framework to make these development actually be implemented, right? We also touched on, Monrovia as well. I feel like if we talk about Monrovia, we will be very repetitive right now since we have, incorporated Monrovia in this conversation with the land comment that she made. So let's talk about Liberianization and what it means, right? So when you hear the word Liberianization, what do you think it means, and what is it actually What did it mean back then? Like, if you have any historical context to it, and what does it mean today? Does it actually exist today? You know, we know when I hear about Liberianization, I think about Tolbert, right? When he mentioned it, um, I think about how he was talking about making things to be more Liberian owned, um, giving us more rights, getting out. Talking about most of the concession deals, going back and looking at it to see what the Liberian people can benefit. Right. These are the things that I talk about. These are the things that I think about when I hear about Liberianization. So, to the panelists, what do you think about Liberianization? Is it important today? Is it something that we can look at and be like, okay, there is Liberianization, or if it isn't, what do you think that can mean in today's current I would say global politics or global diplomacy? Yeah. Let's go with Dr. Jones.
Well, from the cradle of our society, 1847 up to now, the spirit of being nationalistic, that patriotic spirit, we really don't have it, and it's something that we need to really cultivate.
Why do you think we don't have it?
Well, I think it is how the nation was established. You see, I think it is how like for instance, the little Ghanaian history I read, the people fought for their independence. And to fight for the independence, you must be united. These are people who even teach some of their vernaculars in school at university level. You see, these are people when they travel, they get united, they hold together. You see, so it's like one of the things that is conspicuously missing from us. We are not united. We are very individualistic, and these are some of the concepts that were introduced in Liberia in 1847. You see, so at the end of the day, it's like you are my brother or Mr. Nangwe is my brother, but when Mr. Nangwe get in trouble, I rather put more fuel to create problem for him rather than going to rescue him. You see, so that spirit, I noticed that even in the diaspora, Liberians are still not holding together, and we hold together in the form of a project, working together to implement things. So that spirit, that love for country, it had never been there before, you see. But the question now is, how can we introduce it? First of all, it has to go through the schools. The young generation for us now, maybe uh, we are expired now. So it'll be difficult. We're very critical now for the kind of thing to enter the system. But can we tell our children, this is your country, love your country, develop the spirit for this country, all right? But to do that, you got to be the South African. They feel that they fought for their country, and other people going there to reap the gain against you. So some of those concepts, they're necessary for us to hold together. But here is what I would say about the liberalization thing. I think it needs to be revisited. We need to refine it.
Do you think it's out of
No.
context of the
Yes,
current report? You're okay.
yes. When I'm talking about revisitation, it's like, for instance, first of all, we got to identify what are those Liberian businesses that should be limited strictly to Liberians. Is it coal water? Is it mining rock? Is it planting chip? Is it planting hair? Like for instance, in Ghana, our Liberian sisters, they used to go to Kasua to plant hair. Because the Ghanaians love their country, they drove most of our sisters from in the market there that we supposed to be doing this thing. When you go to your country, you can plant the hair there. You see? So what I'm driving out here is that the type of open system we have now, everybody jumping on everything, I think is depriving certain sector of the population where things are not happening. But someone will argue, say, but Liberia don't want to do it. Liberia don't want to do it, and so the foreigner will do it. Okay, if the foreigner will do it, enforce the law. Like one time I was even suggesting for job creation. I said the Lebanese are bringing their store in Liberia. Instead of we complaining about them, come up with policy. If you put one store down here as a Lebanese, our policy says you got to employ the bookkeeper in our store got to be a Liberian. All the store boy in our store got to be a Liberian. If not, we show you the way, we show you to the airport, and we enforce it. That will create more job for the youth. All right. Then those who will not stand the system, like for instance, in Ghana, in the immigration law, it's clearly stated there. There can be no job for foreigner except when there are no qualified Ghanaians. You see? So the people love themselves to the point where it is reflected in their laws and they are enforcing it. You see? So those little things, like for instance, the Chinese have taken over the whole liberalization policy in our place now. The money I was saying and selling it to us and taking the money to China.
Illegally as well, too.
Okay? And they're giving the politician pocket change because the politician, they have become parasite. They're feeding on these guys. So I want to agree with every, by and large, that the issue of leadership is also a factor here from time immemorial. So all those little businesses, like for instance, the Fulanis are in shop. They have in their shop. Okay. Our law says when you bring any shop in Liberia, whether it's to sell one slipper or one pen, Liberian got to be there as a bookkeeper, and we got to track that pen, how much it's making. We'll jam the corridor. It will create employment. Then we'll know which sector of the alien group is making more money because we're keeping track. In Ghana, you can pass to the airport with more than $500 in your grip. It will not happen. You will be charged. All right. So the law for country, we need it. And like for instance now, you know who changing money in Liberia now? Aliens. In Ghana, no alien can change money there. You'll be in trouble. That's why the Nigerian had to leave. They drove them from Kaswa because they were taking over the market in Kaswa. So the Ghanaian rise up. They said, "This is our country. You can come here and you reach yourself while we're getting poor." So while we can develop this spirit, it is not late.
Okay, Anthony. Yeah, let me come in here, please. Look, respect to our elder, number when he said racist, right? Every time you want to be nationalistic, people say it's racist because we as black people who tend to deal with racism, we don't want to see ourselves or even think about ourselves meting it out against another group of people. So we always try to stay clear of the word racism. But nationalism is important. I'm a liberal, and nationalism sometimes can teeter on the line of xenophobia, and discrimination. But as a nation, you have to have some level of nationalism, especially a poor nation like Liberia. When you hear liberalization, in my mind, it's about making sure that the interest of Liberian people is first. When it comes to our economic exploitations, when it comes to our national identity, it has to be Liberianized in the sense that we can't westernize our country to the point where we can't see any of our indigenous our character reflected through our national identity, for one. But second, on the issue of economics, right? Liberians have to be prioritized in our country. And what that means is that our government sometimes have to help subsidize some of these, projects. Because, of course, some foreigners are coming in with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most Liberians don't have that kind of money. So to incentivize Liberians to get into certain fields, our government must subsidize those endeavors. So, for example, right, say somebody wants to start, importing fuel. You have to have a program, for example, to say, look, you have to have at least 50,000. The government is going to partner with you with another $50,000. This is a loan. You're going to pay it back, and we're going to give you that pathway because it's an essential commodity for our country, and we want you to do this, and we want Liberia to be importing fuel in our country, we're going to help you. We're going to partner with you. Don't look for kickbacks. Don't look for corrupt backdoor dealings. Let it be on the up and up, and make sure that you're helping this Liberian citizen to import fuel into the country. If it's opening shops, these Indian guys, these Lebanese guys are doing things, and Liberians, I think one of the things we need to do is to study it. One of the reasons the Chinese are so great today, they imitated. Imitation, you have to imitate. Chinese saw these American companies bringing sophisticated technology in their country and developing it. They stole the technology. They imitated what the Americans was doing. And now that the Americans are out, the Chinese are doing it themselves. So even if you're not a business-minded person, you watch how the Lebanese are operating. You watch how the Indians are operating. And then you yourself, you try to imitate what they're doing. And then you go to your government. The government has to have programs, for example, or have banks that can give you money to start doing what the Chinese are doing so that you as a Liberian can replace what they're doing. The idea is not to kick all the foreigners out and then not have the knowledge in replicating what they did. Acquire the knowledge and then start doing what they were doing. And that way you can slowly kind of ease them out of the way and Liberian become the face of those different businesses. That's what we have to start doing. If we don't nationalize, if we don't have a self-interest in our country and prioritizing Liberians to take spaces that foreigners are currently occupying, we're not going to get, from under the rug of being second-class citizens in our own home. So for me, I think it's a good policy. I'm liberal in my political worldview, but certainly when I think when it comes to our national interest, we have to be nationalistic, putting Liberian businesses and Liberian citizens first before any foreigner.
Thank you. Mr. Nangwe, Liberianization, what does it mean? And why is it lacking some of the implementation that it lacks today?
So thank you, Mr. Russell. I agree mostly with Mr. Morris, partly with Dr. Malley. I think Liberianization is more than just setting aside, exclusive business engagements. I think it's more than that. But let me just quickly remind Dr. Malley, because he's wondering what are some of the things, and there are over 26 of them. But things like retail sale of rice, that is exclusively set aside for Liberian. Ice cream making, right? Travel agencies, right? Commercial printing, advertising, cinema ownership, really and they're not owned by Liberian, so establishment is the entertainment center not connected with establishment hotel, all the little drinks by Ditko on Randall Street and all those things that are not Liberian owned businesses. Taxi and trucking. So there are a lot of them, you understand me? Rice. So the government has to be intentional. Again, I continue to say this, and not because I'm knocking on this government. It's not only this government. Over years, decades, we have a leadership problem. We have to create the enabling environment. Look, my son partners with a younger fellow. My son is in his 30s. He partners with a guy in Ghana. This guy is younger than my son. But this guy walked into the bank, got $40,000 in loan, and he was able to establish himself a transportation business. He's doing limousine, a kind of upscale transportation, transport people to the airport, all of that stuff. Why can't we do that in Liberia easily? My friends are telling me you go to the bank, you pay almost 75% in interest. How can you survive under these conditions? So the government gets $200 million from Asylum Metal. You think they will set that money aside and put it in the bank and say, Liberians, we will work with you and create a condition. You walk into that bank, you walk away with $50,000 and go and set up your poultry farm, whatever it is. We have to be intentional about this. So it is not just setting aside and say, you know what, you have to go and make block, that part of thing, and then they don't have the money. Of course, the Lebanese will go through the other Liberians, and go and they start making block. What do you have? That's what I was saying. They pass behind the back door. So it has to be intentional. Right now, what is in the news? Liberians are fighting with Liberia Traffic Management, $40 million contract at the Ministry of Transport. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? For 25 years, we're going to lock Lebanese and other nationals into a contract that Liberians can really do. What is license plate printing? How technical is that? That can't be that technical. You know, this little girl, Fanta Camara, she's all over the place here. She's talking about Zoom Lion to clean the city of Monrovia, something she was already doing. The United Party government, Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, they took that contract for her and gave it to Ghanaians who already had problems within their own country and in the region. You know, we take bread out of our mouth and give it to other people, and then we want to talk about Liberianization when oh, you can't be citizen of Liberia. It's a joke. It is a joke. We have to be intentional. We have to empower ourselves. That's what Liberianization means to me. The government has, unfortunately, we don't have rich people in Liberia yet, so it still has to fall on the government. They have to create the conditions. You know, that 200 million I keep coming back to from Metal. Instead of giving Regime Speaker Kuhn $500,000 to go and make Jolly Jolly, you know, running around with Mandela Cooper and all that stuff, right? She's a beautiful lady. I gotta say that. Where's my wife?
Come on.
You know, we gotta be intentional, Mr. Russell. This thing is not rocket science. It is very, 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 very simple if we want to be intentional, and we have to have a leader who. Look, back in February, the president he fired 457 people for not declaring the asset. Where has that gone? Nowhere. Because they were not declared because they're stealing. How are you going to declare now what you didn't own that you didn't bring into the government? They know that. They're piling up security agency with all their money, and then in the night they go behind and take it out. How are we going to develop? You're passing a budget of $1.2 billion. Over $900 million of that money is going to just recurring expenditure. Nothing for development. Only $200 million is set aside for road, for hospital, for education, for everything. How does that make any sense? And then when the Ghanaians and the Sierra Leoneans are laughing at us because we're stupid, and then we get upset. No, we shouldn't get upset because we're really stupid. Liberians, we got problem. But I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is not only just a leadership problem, but it's also a budgetary problem as well. Because if a former president can come on here, I mean, can go to the House of Legislature and speak to us about Liberianization and how we're sweating away from it, I would love to ask her, when were we actually, sticking to Liberianization? Has the past budgets during her 12 years actually set precedent to show that she was investing in Liberianization things, or she was building a framework, or any policy that were being enforced by her to show that, okay, these are the things that we have built on and you should not depart from it?
I think the labor laws, I think Councilor Bongo, when he was the head of the labor ministry, I think he implemented and I think he enforced the labor laws on the book that certain jobs can't be done by foreigners, especially with bookkeeping and making sure that these foreigners was hiring Liberians within their stores and other establishments. So I think the Liberian law has to be enforced, and it has to probably even be improved upon. That a lot of these different spaces have to be occupied by Liberians. It has to happen, Anthony. If we're not putting Liberians in a position to succeed and to become wealthy and use that wealth to create more jobs, then what are we doing? And
Why
the government, like Mr. Namwe, was saying, the government have to put this. One second, Mr. Namwe. One second. Let me make the last point.
Minister giving 8,000 work permits in this economy. You can go ahead. Why?
The government have to put its thumb on the scale in favor of Liberians. They have to do that. They have to do it. If you're not doing it, you're not prioritizing your people. And the government right now is not doing it. The previous government hasn't done it. So now, like Mr. Namwe is saying, look, $10 million, Anthony, in a budget of $1 billion goes a long way in social programs. Not everybody's going to benefit from it, but that's a good sample size. If you're giving that $50,000 loans to people who have businesses and you want to help them and give them that helping arm to make sure that they can succeed and compete against the Lebanese. And then also nationally, we have to project this idea that, look, Liberians support Liberian businesses. In America, we have support Black businesses, right? Black small businesses, to make sure that money circulates within in the community. Tell Liberians, do a national campaign, even us in the private sector or who are private citizens, we need to support Liberian businesses. If there's a Liberian business that's competing with a Lebanese business, Yeah, it may not be as glamorous. Yeah, it may not be at the same quality, but in the hope of nationalism and patriotism, support your fellow Liberian. Make sure that they succeed, rather than the foreigners succeeding over them. We
Do
have to
you
do that.
my question to you specifically, Elvis, is that do you think that is a structural as to why the Liberians really don't get certain contracts or government contracts? When it, like for example, Mr. Namba was talking about Zoomline. I mean, when I read about Zoomline, it blew my mind as to how we can sit in bed and get into a contract with these people.
Look,
So
let me tell you.
is it more of a structural thing? Because it seems like it is.
Yeah, it is in a way, but let me tell you, when foreigners go to Liberia, they set aside a budget for bribes. They set aside budget for bribing our politicians. So a young lady like Fanta Kamara who have a brilliant idea and is doing something, she may not have the resources to go pay $50,000, $100,000 in bribe to compete against a foreigner who's trying to take her place in her own country. So if our people who owns, not owns, but who runs our commerce ministry or certain places where these guys can give you 10,000, $20,000 in bribe and the Liberian can't compete, what can they do? You just have corrupt officials who are taking food out of the mouths of Liberians and giving it to foreigners because they're bribing them. So bribery and corruption should be put on full display and punished, to try to curb that behavior. But also, if we're patriotic, regardless of even if we want to steal, sometimes you have to put your countrymen over other people. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that. So for me, I'm telling you, it's a social thing. If we're not putting it in the minds of our people that Liberia first, I hate to use a Donald Trump slogan, but Liberia first. Put that on a national level that if anybody is seeing this happen, come and tell the government. If you see a Lebanese man owning a company, and you know he already owns that company, report that Lebanese man to the government and we'll investigate it. If you see them doing anything illegal, tell them to snitch on the foreigners if they're doing anything illegal. Encourage it so that Liberians can know that this is their country and we prioritize their well-being over the foreigners. And you have to do it on a national level by putting it out there so that Liberians know that it's their duty to protect their Liberianness and their inheritance, which is their citizenship. That's all we have in that country.
Yeah, but
Outside of our citizenship, we ain't got nothing.
Elvis, don't also forget that the issue of business and self-sufficiency was never part of our orientation. It was never factored into our DNA for all those many years. Unlike Ghana, they started the struggle with the British from day one, and they started spreading their patriotic lesson in schools. We never had our orientation. So you see, Liberia in business today, his lifestyle will always the profit and the capital of that thing break down than his orientation. So we need that orientation. But here's what I wanted to also say. Where is the role of our great and powerful civil society in our country? These people, along with the journalists, are supposed to be setting the agenda, creating the self-awareness, love for country, the civil society. That's supposed to be one of their major frontline operation in that country. But it seems to be they are all being compromised by the petty Lebanese rich people. And I went to Liberia the last time. I just decided to go on Broad Street to see the Lebanese store, brother. You get 3 Lebanese guys in the store, one Liberian there, and they checking on him like ego checking on rat. He moves so, they move so. They move so, they move so. So I stood there for a long time. I said, if you bring your store here, only one Lebanese will be in the store here. The rest will be Liberians. All right. Why our people align this thing? I have a friend now who brought a little shop, like some little investment from Sierra Leone. You know what I got there? He brought his sister. He brought his auntie. He brought to his brother. They are running that thing. They have marginalized the employment aspect for Liberians. You see? So the question now is, our people can only be conscientized.
But Mr. Malik, quickly, is it on you? Is it on you as a Liberian who saw that with your eyes to go and report it? because the government don't have a eyeball in their head to come and see everything. If you see something going on that's wrong, you should go and report it to the
Yeah,
Liberian
but what
government.
I'm saying now, we don't have that orientation until we have it. We don't have it.
That's a great question, Elvis. I think what it points to
I
is
agree with
that
you 100%, Elvis.
it needs a framework, right?
In Ghana, I
Yeah.
always making reference there because I try to really study the people's system. Like they see you, one person see you suspicious, they start calling oil around on you.
That's what I'm saying. We don't do that.
That led to the death of that guy. But Liberian men, you see one person operating, they don't even care.
Well,
When you
yeah, you're part of that business. I don't care.
or Liberian, they don't even care. You see?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, we have lived like that for a long time. That orientation is not there. That's why the foreigner enjoying our country. So the question now is, where do we start from? That is
I used to use that stupid word, but conscientization, right? Conscientize the people by making it a national campaign. That if you be in America, we call it snitching, but I don't care. Snitch on foreigners who are breaking the laws. If they're
yes.
not hiring Liberian, if they're packing their stores with their relative, when you go there to patronize that store, go and report it to a government agency and tell the people where to go report it and where that location is. And let the labor ministry come there and enforce that law. You have to do it.
And we
Yeah,
have to understand.
if that would be your argument, let me just give you a little scenario. I had two friends, they were store boys working in one Lebanese shop. This guy from Commerce Ministry appeared there to just see the tax paper from this guy. Oh, before they could even, I was just standing down there watching the show. The guy took a telephone, he called one other Liberian man. I think he wanted the top bride around there. And he said, oh, they want to talk to you. So the guy took the phone. That thing was on loudspeaker. You know what the guy that top bride to the to the inspector? This is my interest. Tenfold. And that guy just left. You see how morally corrupt the system is? So there are some Lebanese in a place pay their taxes to some government official. And they become a clientele now, he protecting them. And every money a Liberian government official takes from a Lebanese,
They have compromised.
they increase it in their goods, and we pay for it. And that has
It's
been
a
going
form of
on
terror.
for a very, very long time. So what you see, Ever, is very true. But that is not our orientation. We never started that way. Look at the curriculum our various school right now. It's all they are preparing the children for office job, politics, office job, all the graduates that come out in all the university there, politics, government job, politics, government job. I'm telling you, to the
Thank you,
point
Dr.
where
James.
those who are doing agriculture are
So let me
suffering.
ask a
They leave
question,
and then
Anthony,
go to political
and
science.
maybe Mr. Number can answer it, right?
Yeah.
It's an incumbent on us who are citizens, who are constituents or representatives, to tell them and give them these ideas. Because believe it or not, some of these guys are not even thinking about this. That in this instance, when it comes to the labor laws, we should try to either make a law or make a public campaign to tell Liberians, to tell on foreigners who are breaking our laws. Because you can call your representative. I can call my representative from the country that I live in Liberia. Mr. Number is well connected. Are we doing these things, or we just have this conversation and that's it, and we don't reach out to the people who actually have the power to make some of these changes?
You just
That's
need
the question for us.
to
What are we doing?
you just need a form of movement. And I'm ready to join you.
And that's the easy thing and the hard thing, because it's a number. You have the connection. You can call Musa Belete and say, look, you're in the House of Representatives, Mr. Party chairman, party leader. What can we do about enforcing our laws against the bad labor practices of foreigners in our country? Asking that question in one of your political meetings. Let them formulate a plan and bring it to the attention of the legislature and see what they say about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think,
go ahead, Mr. Number,
no,
and
I was
then
going to say
I'll close out this
quickly,
topic.
Elvis, you're not wrong, but it's a conscientization, like Dr. Malice, and sensitization that I think falls on all of us. I agree with you. I mean, Musa has raised a number of those things, but there is always strength in number, right? I think it falls on all of us to continue to educate our people. our people are getting educated, but I think they still haven't realized the enormity of the power that is in their hands as the electorate. You know, there are a lot of civil disobedience that can happen. Our people still having, they having I think they're still learning, how to do that. They can do sit-ins, they can. But yes, you're right. We have to let people know what is not working for us in society. But our people are still having difficulty. They're still afraid in some ways. But sometimes I marvel at how much Liberians have matured. The ability to stand on the radio or in front of the microphone and express yourself. That's something that never happened during our time. You couldn't do that easily. So we're coming. I think you're right. The speed is a little bit slower, and I think it falls on all of us to continue to conscientize our people. Look at the removal of the speaker. We sat down there and let that happen. People could occupy the Capitol building and make that thing impossible. People did voice their opinions, but I think that critical force that was necessary to put it over the hump, it didn't happen. You mean Kung can get on and break into Yeke's car and nothing happens? That to me that's illegal. So you're right. There are lots of ways it can be done. I agree with you. Part of that would be, using people like Musa as ability, but you need that critical voice, that critical mass is the groundswell that really all of us I think should be doing. But we have a lot. And then finally, I still bring it back to leadership, Elvis. The leader is the leader. Lead us over the horizon, right? Because you can see things that we the ordinary people cannot see. That's why you are the leader. You lead us. All of this is I think it will be helped if we have a very engaged and a very, very, very robust, efficient leadership. President Baka is not. With what due respect, he is not that person who is going to help us out of this. He's not.
Yeah, but
He's
gentlemen,
even Mr. Nangwe, even your CMC political leader, he's not even speaking the kind of language here we're speaking tonight. He's not even talking about it.
He had that view before. I don't know where it went. He became disillusioned with the legislature, and now he's kind of taking a step back and focusing more on the 2029.
It's concluded that the change that is necessary cannot happen through the legislature.
Okay, gentlemen, let's conclude.
So, Dr. June, I will not push back on that. You go and check the papers, then you come back to me.
Let's respect the host, gentlemen. The host is speaking. Let him.
Let's conclude on this subject, please. I think that one of the things that we look at with the president's recent State of the Nation address, he talked about 70,000 jobs being short and medium-term jobs being created. But I'm not sure. I think that when we think about jobs creation, we think about businesses opening new businesses and things like that, right? But what it really means is that jobs already exist in the Liberian economy. Like we have stated here, there are jobs that are available, that could be available to Liberians and Liberians only. So we just need to put in the proper channel, and our leaders just have to implement the right system. That wouldn't take $10 million for us to follow the laws, to create 10,000 jobs. It wouldn't take $10 million for us to go and create, factories. We don't have to do that. I mean, we could do that, right? And we should do that. But there are other ways in which we can create, income, long-term income for Liberians.
Yes.
At least so that they can be able to transport themselves or be able to do other things within their own lives.
Long-term, durable jobs, Ross.
If they're getting employed at these local stores, these Lebanese stores, these foreigner stores, these are jobs that they can look at. Whether it's money in their pockets. Now that's a different conversation. But at least they're employed, right? So I think that when the president, if he is listening, or any somebody that's closer to him is listening, these are ways in which you can create jobs for Liberians, and not to be focused on creating short, medium-term government agency jobs that will employ people for 2 weeks. Their paychecks are being lagged and all these things there. When you can actually implement these framework in that are, you don't have to implement it. It already exists. Just enforce them. So what's stopping the Liberian government from actually enforcing these framework and us having to not just say, oh, the president created 70,000 jobs, and you go and look, these are not real 70,000 jobs.
Yeah.
These are the conversations that we should be having.
And
And
to
I
your point,
think
Ross, I didn't know that. For instance, like you're saying, you're here, you send $5,000 home, and you ask somebody to build you a little kitchen, right? That is captured as part of the job that the government counts. I didn't know that.
oh,
So that is the very temporary engagement. When the construction
Yeah.
is done, that person is without a job. But the president may not be lying, because those are the companies that what people are saying, like you're saying, durable,
long term.
permanent, long-lasting jobs, right? Jobs that will feed a family for an extended period of time. I think that's what
It's
we
a
Or even
number.
be the individual.
I disagree with you.
It's okay. Let's
Go-
we're
So you
government,
disagree with me about
hold on,
what?
hold
no,
on,
no,
'cause
no. Government need a baby.
I think-
Government need a baby step. Every government need a baby step. But here is one thing I want to leave with Ross and the rest of the panelists. It's not only the job creation. Some of our brothers, especially the young brothers, the question of sincerity, commitment, ethical practices is a problem too. Okay.
Agree.
People go on the job, they try to vandalize, they want to steal, they want you see, so it's a holistic error that needs some, rare concrete attention, to be very frank with you. It's not just a job.
So,
Okay,
Dr. Malley, you
like
make
for,
a good
like
point.
for
I don't
instance,
know. I don't know
now
what part
I
you
got
disagree
into
with
the
me. Let me
conclusion
tell
that
you some of the
Okay,
problems
gentlemen,
that
I
we
think we
I,
gotta
I
move
think
on.
Mr.
No, you
Langley,
took a dig.
the
You took a
guinea
dig.
pig
I mean, let
guy.
me push back.
Anthony, use your mute button, Anthony. Use your mute button.
All right, gentlemen. I think we have to
All right.
move
Some
on
of
to
the
the
problem I was
next.
going to say, Ross,
Let's move on to
you
the
should go
next.
back to this story with George Solo, the
I
president,
think
the man was
we
supposed to
have
be
to
an
move
ambassador
on.
to Italy. Those are part of the
Uh,
problems that are stopping people from coming to
That
invest.
what they shouldn't let people younger host the show because older people don't respect all the young people. They will not listen to you.
Condition for people to create jobs.
okay.
You
Now,
need you need a baby step as a government.
Oh God, Anthony, put your foot down, my man. Don't listen to my man. They will not let you regulate them.
okay. So moving on to the next topic. You see, today if it's actually there's the next day in Liberia, but today was actually categorized as International Women's Day. And yesterday, Elaine's statement at the House of Legislature actually talked about Liberian leadership. She stated how Liberia lacked women's representation throughout the entire government, and that how we have to implement and institute more women, um, in our actual political, social framework. So, what do you guys think about that? What are some of the comments that you can make? And being a woman, is this something that she is there something that she could have done? What does she do for young girls? Does she institute? Does she place a robust institution to actually give them the level playing field? Or like what exactly it is that Ellen Johnson did for girls that to actually have her to come here as a former, to the House of Legislature as a former president to say these things. Like what exactly was she doing
Okay.
time frame as a president?
Yeah. Let me come in here quickly. As a country, even before this came up, I've always been proud of Liberia in terms of the way we propel women into leadership positions. Look, we're the second or first country on the continent to have a woman's president, a woman's vice president, a woman's chief justice. You know, we have a woman speaker of the house currently. So women has been put in position of authority and leadership in Liberia. Perhaps what she was saying is that not to the levels of some country or maybe what she may want to see personally, but certainly when it comes to high level position, women have been represented in our government. So I don't think Nigeria has ever had a female president or a female vice president or even a female chief justice in their country. I don't even think Ghana has been there too. So a lot of our neighbors haven't seen woman leadership in the highest echelon of government. So we should pat ourselves on the back for really putting women in high position of power. And the ultimate position, which was a president. Many other African countries can boast of that. So I do think that women on the domestic front need more rights. You know, a lot of spousal abuse and domestic abuse is still happening within the country on a personal level on a domestic front. But I think politically, women have ascended more so than other African countries in our region. And lastly, I think the protection of young girls, you know, not just women in politics, because that's, you know, that's a personal thing, but the protection of our young women and our young girls through education, through social services to make sure that young girls are not being raped. I saw something that made me so angry. I think you all saw it on Front Page Africa. Where this little baby was walking around selling something on her head and her hands was burned because it said she stole something from her auntie, and this child was being abused and put in the street to walk around selling goods while her hand is rotting on, you know, her fingers are rotting on her hands. That really made me angry. And I think the social services that happened in America, that person would be in jail. You know, that person would be in jail. CPS will come and take that child away, put him in a better foster care, you know, hopefully, and put that person in jail for abusing that child. But we're not doing that in Liberia. We're not protecting our kids. We're not protecting especially our young girls and our young women who may be vulnerable to abuses in our country. But I think politically, women has done better in Liberia than many other African countries in our environment.
So, thank you. Yeah, she stated that, you know, currently there are 9 out of 73 House members that are actually women, and 2 in the Senate out of the 30. And her statement on this is, it embarrasses me. It embarrasses women in Liberia. It embarrasses women in Africa. And it embarrasses women worldwide. She's urging the lawmakers to consider quota systems or other legal mechanisms to improve women's representation in politics. I mean, I think that we should be. I understand where it is that she's coming from, but I think that there's more to this, right? I think that politics should not be something that you should just create a system for, but these women need to be given their ground general first framework of feeling safe before we can even start to talk about politics, right?
Right, right.
And it doesn't take, you know, and there, I mean, someone just pointed out that there is a gender ministry. What is that gender ministry actually doing? You know, when we talk about these things, like, are they creating framework? Are they making sure that girls are being better educated? Are they making sure that girls are getting the necessary help that they need to get in terms of, you know, family planning and all these other things that we have going on in our society? That comes back to making sure that women are protected, and, you know, making sure that they're safe. So, Mr. Nami, what do you think about this? Her statement is specifically to the amount of, you know, women that is represented throughout the House of Legislature as well as the Senate.
Well, yeah, no, I think
I mean, the
Elvis is.
representative as well as the Senate. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Elvis is. I don't know. I don't want to say misgetting the point. I think the former president's point is that the percentage of representation in government. Yeah, I know women have risen to very, top level. She herself, she was president of Liberia. Like he said, one of probably 2 presidents we've had. We've had Ruth Perry and I think herself. So yeah, but I think she meant the percentage of women. You said 9 out of, I think, 190,
9 out of 73.
Exactly. I mean, that's almost like 1%. So I think that's what she's talking about, the percentage of representation in government. I mean, look at Namibia, for instance. I think they have a woman president, woman vice president, woman speaker, and let's be honest, the women are smarter than us men. That is a fact, So I think we're losing out by, excluding them out of government. I think we need to do more to have them represented. If it has to be the quota system for some time, just like we had the affirmative action here, I think that should be done. But I agree with her. I think we need to increase the representation of women in government.
Don't forget, we have a woman foreign minister also, very powerful
I
position.
understand, Elvis, you're talking about quality of women in government. I'm talking about the quantity, the percentage of women represented in government. I think that's what she's talking about. Yeah, we have one foreign minister. I get that, but take that, then you have a male justice minister, a male, information minister, blah blah blah. So I agree with her. I think we need to increase the women representation in all levels of government. legislature, executive, and judiciary.
What does that mean for these little girls though? So if you're just thinking on politics, what does that mean for the girls, the young girls that are coming up?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it means we have to do it through the quota system that they did here with affirmative action, right? Well, a certain percentage is going to be set aside every election year just for women. I think we need to do that. I don't know what the mechanics would be yet, but for every 73, if we can put in maybe 35 women or 34 women, we set that aside and just make sure those are going to be exclusively for women if that is what it would take. And also the president's appointment as well to the executive. Yeah, I think Elvis is right. We have a woman sports minister, a woman commerce minister, a woman foreign minister,
And the
and probably
education as
woman
well.
gender minister. I think he's trying. We have a gender minister, we have a health minister, we have education minister. So I think the president is
There
trying.
you go. Now you're talking.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
but
I think I think on
go
the
ahead.
topic of politics, the representative is reflective of the constituent that vote for them. So I think on that regards, on politics, women shouldn't have a quota system because that's a freedom of choice for the people who are electing their people. If you're boxing to either or you're just boxing to one gender, that's taking away the political, disenfranchising people politically. I think when it comes to government position, that's where it makes more sense, where certain ministerial positions can be allocated for women, a certain percentage of the government, the cabinet, or total minister, position, deputy minister position can be allocated for women. But when it comes to free elections, part of it being free and fair is that anybody can compete, and anybody have the ability to win. So I think when it comes to you elect a position, we shouldn't have quota. But when it comes to government position and put the position, women should definitely have a quota on that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that these things can reflect, or it might reflect the benefits as to having women in some of these various ministries, so that we can be able to protect not just women, but to also be able to protect our young people as well. When you talk about if you're protecting a little girl, that means that you should also look to her left or her right side and see that that boy needs protection as well too. And we know that women will have better terms or the motherly love to be able to protect these young people. Dr. Jones, what's your take on this? You're muted. Nah, you're still okay.
Hear me now?
You're muted. Yep. We can
Okay.
hear you.
I think I'm a little bit disappointed about having deliverables on the girls. We cannot be talking about women empowerment when we are not doing anything to amend their level of education. Okay? How many girls Helen was able to put in leadership and send them abroad and say, look, it's about time for our society to invest in our girls who will be our leaders tomorrow? How many? Whosoever have the statistic, you can share with me. And you can narrow this thing to politics. This is where now I see that all our advocacy is just on politics, people going into politics. When Helen was in power for 12 years, how many girls she sent abroad or to even sponsor them in the very university to augment their educational level and prepare them for the unknown future, for which probably she would have boast about and encourage the men to help them? How many? So I see this as political deception. It was the same Helen when she came to power. She found it difficult to even employ a lot of those guys from the University of Liberia because she said so many things go on at Brandon. This is our very leader. All right. Now she out of power now. She's talking about women empowerment. Okay, equilibrium for women, this, that. Have you empowered them? Have you augmented their educational level? Have you been able to sponsor some of them outside? 5 to 6, 700 of them coming back? Have you been able to put some of them in diverse areas apart from politics? You see? So this is a deception to me by the former president.
I mean,
Coming at this time.
Yeah, I disagree with Dr. Malley entirely.
No. Let me finish, please. Let me finish.
I
Now,
completely
listen,
hold on,
disagree.
Doctor. Hold
I'm
on,
not concerned about the appropriation. No, the appropriation is short-lived development. I'm not interested in that. If you are well educated, okay, trust me, no one will need to advocate for you. You wouldn't need to know the role. And education can show you the way. All right. So what I'm seeing here is that once you're not up to that speed, who will go be putting you all around the place? Put you all around the place for what? To do what? At the end of the day, the only job you need to do is to find out where the money is for miscellaneous and other things. Is this what we're talking about? I'm not talking about short-term arrangement. When a woman is real educated, woman, you don't have to cry around. They will challenge the system, and the system will work for them. But Harry never did that as a first female. All right? She never helped any of those girls. Whosoever have the statistic you can help, you can give it to me. Why is it that there was not so many women more than the men in her government? The men were more than the women in her government because she did not prepare them. It's now she going to parliament and telling parliament there's a need for appropriation when they are not yet even prepared. So this is where I'm coming from. I'm not talking about short-term arrangement. Government job is a musical seat. You there tomorrow, by the time the chair turn around, you're out. All right? So if they are not well prepared, when the chair is out, they remain out forever. That deception. But when they're well prepared, even when the chair turns, the next round, the chair come back, they can still find their way there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Dr. Malley is not taking his own advice. First, he said not to politicize the thing, but he's being political. Look, two things can be true at the same time. She could not have talked. She may not have done it, but it doesn't mean she can't talk about it. I think you're focusing on the messenger, and that's a problem. That's a mistake. What Ellen Johnson is talking has nothing to do with what she did or didn't do. We're talking about what is ailing society today.
Hold on,
This is the thing that you people do.
Dr. Jones, let me finish, Dr. Jones. Let me finish.
She could help the girls. She did not.
Yeah, so then what? So nobody should do it now because you
That
did it?
deception.
Yeah, so what? Look, the problem is, and the you people do this all the time. Oh, I didn't do that. Why should we? You look in the rearview mirror. We're talking about now. You are in the government now. She's pointing out those things that are ailing society.
Mr. Namlet,
yes,
a presidency is not any position. You understand, right? A presidency is not any position for you to come and just. It's not like, oh, I was just an employee at a company and I come and giving up, an employee review. If I was the CEO of a company and I come back and advising another CEO of something that I didn't do or I didn't address at all during my time, that is an issue within itself.
No, I agree. Mr. Russell. But the point that I'm making is the point I'm making is I understand she didn't do that, but because you didn't do that now, we shouldn't attempt to fix that problem that she's highlighting. Is that a problem? Because you didn't do it, so we shouldn't talk about it at all.
So it's not that it is not that she thought of it. That women empowerment.
It is possible. What is wrong with that?
There's a big thing wrong with that. Patriotism is wrong with that. Patriotism is wrong with that. And lack of interest in the particular population is wrong with that. There are a lot of things wrong with that.
Yeah, I really disagree with that. Look, I'm not necessarily.
I think what we're talking about here is the relevance to the person that actually made the statement, right? You have a woman and who was also a president.
Yes.
So if they're coming to talk to you about some of the, not just to talk to the public, but to talk to the people that actually make the rules and the laws and the regulation that actually pass as policy and law.
No, Russell, let me tell you this, right? I learned yesterday. I think they're trying to invite the former president.
If she is talking to people that make the rules and laws of this country, right, and she was the president, right? Does she have any framework to point to to say, I left that in place, or these are some of the things that we were trying to address, and it is still unaddressed. And I think that that's what it is that you guys should be working on, or we should do this more, right? I understand that she couldn't have done all of these things that we talked about, but at least did that thing cross her mind? Did she put down some framework to say that, okay, maternity ward in hospitals will be funded. We will make sure that girls get better sex education. We will make sure that boys get better sex education. We will make sure that our girls learn that they should not be, that you should not tolerate, sexual advances or inappropriate things to them, right? These are things that should be taught. These are not things that someone who was in a very important and the most powerful position in the country can just come and just say, "Oh, we need more women in politics." And
But Anthony, I hope you understand her point of view because she's not a dictator, right? Our president is not a dictator.
Just let you come in, and I'll
go ahead,
Mr. So what I'm saying is, Mr. Russell and Dr. O'Malley, there's no way anybody can solve all of the problem. It's not possible. But I think she's in an advantageous position. Looking back, she can come and say, "These are the things that got away from me. Don't make that mistake that I made." I think she has that authority to do that. I understand that even they're inviting the former president. We are in as well. What are some of you?
Is she saying that from a mistake point of view or from a?
I think she's giving advice. I don't think she can be criticized.
Let me say this, Anthony. I think, like I was saying, she's not a dictator. Our country has certain procedures in which laws are made. So imagine a House and a Senate dominated by males. Right. If she proffer a bill that's supposed to bring 40% of women in the House or in the Senate, those men are not going to go for it because in their mind it's against their interest, and she can't make a decree and make them to do it. So certain things have to be passed through laws, and she probably just didn't have the support through the men that dominated our Congress. And secondly, in all honesty, she did do a lot for women. I think the gender ministry was more effective under her presidency. She did a lot of things. She had a campaign about domestic violence and that real men don't beat women. All of those things I remember her during her presidency. Certainly, she was more vocal on women issues than the successive male presidents we've had. And even President Weah, through his wife, the whole thing that she's doing, she's empowering a lot of young girls. She's helping with hygiene for women. She did a lot of things for young women. But I think the biggest part is the politics, and that's where you're going to get the most pushback because that's going to quote unquote disenfranchise the male-dominated political space, and most males are not going to be in favor of passing any bill that's going to disenfranchise them. So the key here is men have to actually lead this fight because they're the majority in that space. So if women has to come in the political space and become on parity with men in terms of political representation, the men will be the one to foster that change. And that's where the sticking point is. Are these men willing to do it? That's the question.
No, but Anthony.
Yes, sir.
To be very frank with you, most of the thing Evans is talking about health day for women, these were all lip services. All right. I mean, a lot of retrospect.
Break that down to the Liberian people. What does that mean?
Yes. You see, empowerment is the key. Empowerment is the key. It's a lifetime education for anybody in life. Empower a woman educationally. You have given her the goal in her life. For instance, when she was that 12 years, she ever went to Parliament and said, "Look, gentlemen, I came to lecture you guys today about this appropriation. And so many women, I'm in power now. I got to talk about this." You can't tell me that Helen organization for women just begun. No, it's part of her plan. It was part of her plan from day one when she became president. What did she do? There's no constitutional provision that there should be equality for women and equality for men. We don't have that constitution. But what I'm saying here is that if you empower a woman, even in your absence, they will do something. And besides that, you cannot be pushing women agenda only to implement politics. Politics is not all to it. This is where too many things going wrong in that country. They should create other empowerment for women, apart from the appropriation, just looking for government job, because the whole thing boils down to government job, running for parliament. All right, they should empower them in other areas where they can even be self-sufficient. All right. So I
Yes,
see,
actually, she has Dr. Molly.
yeah, I come in. I see it as, I have not seen that statistics. Except someone can lead me
Yeah,
to that
there's an
statistic. I
organization
have
that she's
not
a
seen
part
that
of.
statistics, and so we all follow Helen Johnson's government up to today, up to the time she was in power. All right. Speaking about something that she's speaking now, like all her deliverable to parliament, I mean, they just irrelevant, to be very frank with you. And even speaking about the girls, because even all her conferences she's going to now, because she was president, and therefore she want to prepare a generation of women into politics. All right. It's the same thing that causing problem for Liberia today. So when no politics, the rest of the women are going to suffer. Okay. So what I'm saying, she was never innovative. I did not see the impact of her administration in pushing that population in the empowerment era. I didn't see it. And politics is not the only place that you can push people. So pushing it now is still irrelevant. So
In her, on
to Name question that is it late? It's not late, Name. It is not late. You just
okay.
argue here that the president can do all. So then you got to agree with me now that Joseph Baka can do all.
10 seconds. 10 seconds after. Let me just
Go ahead, Elvis.
elucidate Dr. Molly here. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is part of an organization right now. I forgot the name of the organization, but Kona Fofana was part of that organization, and they helped propel her. It's a regional organization, but a lot of Liberian girls are part of that organization. It teaches them leadership, and it's a West African thing. Even the president of Ivory Coast was the host of or the keynote speaker at one of their programs quite recently. So she is actively part of an organization that's helping to foster leadership amongst women in our region. But secondly, it was under her leadership that Dr. Mill Jones was giving out microloans to market women in Liberia to help empower them to foster their businesses as women. As I said, she can't do everything like everybody is saying, but I definitely am a critic of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. But I think in the issue of women empowerment, she did a lot. The thing about it is that after subsequent presidents came after her, they did away with those policies. Those things are not enshrined in our constitution that women should be given these microloans. So once she was out of office, that program stopped. So certain things can only happen while you're in office, and others, the men that are supposed to carry it on, they're not doing it. So I get it. Women, I think, are probably a majority of our population in Liberia. In most countries, women are the slight majority. I guess that's how just God, organized us to be. Women are always more than men, right? And they have certain qualities, and they're less aggressive when it comes to politics, and they're less vocal when it comes to certain issues in the society. So as men, we have to advocate for them and not blame the woman for not doing more. As men, if we advocate and we become a staunch supporter of the rights of our women and the expansion of their position in our society, it will happen. We can't blame a former president because she was president, and forget that she's a woman, and a lot of men were standing against her, especially when it came to women rights issues. So as men, we have to fight on behalf of our women and make sure that we propagate for their rights and expansion in our political and social society. Thank
So
you.
then,
And
why she
I
didn't go
agree.
in
I
for a
agree with
woman
you.
vice
Hold on one
president?
second, Dr. Jones. I agree with you, and I think that's why I think that context matters, right? When you're sitting in front of the parliament today, when she's talking, I think what it is that she needed to do was to give them a framework of some of the things that she has done and that they could go back to reference, right? But in her speech, she stated that she has no regrets of some of the
Yes.
things or some of the actions that she did. I mean, are we and that's why it's so hard for some people to really understand that she came with true intentions to actually say, okay, I failed on some of these things, and I think that the country can move forward by incorporating women in certain areas and to also focus on education, to educate our women. That should be her primary goal. Not to come and say that they should be given this and we know that politics is a dirty game in Liberia. And no one will actually sit there, even some of the women that are there, they won't even sit there to come and say, okay, we need more of this. No, they own their we know that some of our politicians are in there for their own personal and selfish gain, right? So it is important that she should have gone there with some type of analogies or framework to look at and say, okay, I was planning on doing these things, and I feel like this is what the people, I mean, the women actually need today to be able to empower themselves either through other avenues or through politics. But for her to solely speak in terms of politics is where people are really finding it hard to understand as to what it is that she did to actually, increase the women's involvement in politics. And why is it so hard now for women to actually, like, I personally don't feel like even in 2030 that it will be very difficult for a Liberian woman to even run and as a president and to actually win that seat, because there's not no framework that she has built to for these women to actually say, okay, we can bargain on that and moving on that. So let's go to Dr. Jones then. Let's go to Dr. Jones.
Yeah. So my last question now is,
and then we can conclude. Yeah.
if Her Excellency the former president was very patriotic and have love for this population, the vulnerable population. I mean, she's very good at politics. She played her game. I mean, we know the story. Why she couldn't go through some of the civil society to craft a law? Because this is one way you can show your love for this population. Craft a law. So look, I'm pushing this law so that when the law go through, at the end of the day, at least certain percentage opposition will go to women. Since that Mr. Nangwe argument. So go to women. Then if she went to parliament today and said, look, this is all I try to do for my women, but it didn't work. But I'm not sleeping. I'm back again to talk to you guys to push this thing here. Now, my language will change on this platform. All right? I didn't see that patriotism. Even that issue of Mel Jones, that was a political issue. They were looking for their own political operation. All right? Those were short-term, like Nangbe said, short-term payroll thing. We are talking about durable, long-lasting thing. So did she go to push a law? Even when she went there today, I mean, when she went there yesterday, if she had just said, oh, gentlemen, it's about time that we push some law around here for this population here. At least she's still thinking about them. Then Nangwe said she couldn't do everything. Jeha Joseph Baka can't do everything. I agree.
Joseph Baka, man, you do everything.
Look, I mean, do everything.
Look, I know that Dr. Mali is done, but I have an 8 o'clock, so I gotta take it down. But Dr.
So
Mali
to
is
be
done.
very frank with you, I mean, I like her initiative, but I see some late deception there, and it's not late yet. Like Nangbe said, it's really not late. But can the men pick up this agenda? That's another game again. That's another issue.
Let's let Mr. Number close so we can all close it.
Maybe the CNC standard bearer probably can pick up this stuff. It would be very excellent.
I was saying the link so you can register. I think you really want to. I was saying the link that Mali. But look, I think I can understand where Dr. Mali is coming from. I think the presentation, some people had a problem with it. I can understand that. But I really don't. First of all, let's put this in context. She was invited. She was invited to talk to them about her experience and her observations and some recommendations how to move the country forward. And I think she has that right as a former president. So I'm not really stuck on what she could have done that she didn't do, as much as she is pointing out those things that we could do to better our society. I think that's how I'm looking at it. So I'm taking the message and leaving the messenger out of the way and trying to take unpack, take apart what she said and looking and see whether she made sense. And I think she made a lot of sense. So, I don't know, but I can understand where Dr. Mali is coming from. This government could take issue with it, oh, who are you? You didn't do this for us. But I don't see it that way. I see it as a former president giving out advice based on her experience. those things that got away from her. I think she has a right to tell us, you know. And she did say she asserted that the extenuating circumstances under which she was president. She just came out of war. So there were a lot of inhibitions, a lot of obstacles placed in her way. So I thank the former president for coming to point. I don't think she meant to chastise this present government. I don't think that's what she came to do. I don't think she came to criticize. She just came to give advice on what to do. I understand the former president Weah is also going to be invited. I think Marvin Cole made that proposal, and I think it was accepted. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we, first of all, this is the first time we're having so many, living past presidents. Most of the time we kill them, and so I think it's a good thing we have such statesmen still around who can come and
around. Are they good?
who can come
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. The group we gotta live in. The group we gotta live in.
I mean, they gotta be good. We gotta live it, right? But I'll leave it. Thank you so much, guys. Great show tonight, Russell. Thanks again for hosting. Elvis, welcome back.
But Mr. Nangwe, before we catch up, why is it that Her Excellency, because I had expectation, we didn't hear something about human rights, corruption, and we didn't hear something about the TRC or war crime. I didn't even hear something about good governance.
The woman already said.
Maybe they limited her to only 6 items, and of the 6 items, the number one thing that she could have talked about was Article 27B.
Oh, really?
And the latter. maybe they limited her.
But thank you, Dr. O'Malley. Elvis, welcome back. And thank you, Ross. It's been a great show.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't give you guys time to do any closing statements. Because
let's not do that. Let's just end it. It's been a good show so far.
But thank you all for being here. Today we discussed President Ellen Johnson's visit to the Parliament, and some of the things that she talked about was the Article 27B when it comes to citizenship, right? What does that mean? And if it's if that provision is actually racist, she wants that to be changed. She also talked about land and development. In terms of development, we need to make the tough choices. And as painful as some of the developments are when we talk about demolition, she wants for people, especially Liberians, to understand that we have to do the tough tax. But in terms of doing the tough tax, you have to plan. You can't just go out and break people's stuff down. You can't just go out without any notices, without any a plan that will actually relocate those people or even give them some type of compensations. And we have laws, and these laws have to be put in place by the people's who houses that are being demolished. Because when you look at these things, I don't feel like these people understand what constitutional power that they have. All they do is to cry for help and say, "Oh, Mr. President, help us out." No, you can actually take the government to court, and there will be backlogs, but at least we can say that we are trusting our justice system or our land reform 2018 system, right? But after all of that, we talked about the women inequality in government as well too. We have to look at that. What does it mean? Who is going to benefit from it? And are there people currently benefiting from all these things? So thank you, gentlemen, for all the time. I do want to appreciate you for being here today. And this was Friday night's debate. And I'm your truly humble host, Anthony Russell. And thanks to the gentlemen, my panelists as well, too.
All right, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.